Okay, everyone. Assalamualaikum and very good morning to all the participants. Yes, before we start, I would like to ask to everybody all please stand for our national anthem. Okay, thank you. Everyone please sit down. Okay, once again, I would say Assalamualaikum and greetings to everybody. And also to the Dean, FSTU, KTN, and Conference Advisor, Professor DPR, Dr. Jamal Abdullah. To the Conference Chair, Professor Dr. Muhammad Yusuf Abbas. Conference Co-Chair, Dr. Masud Sarwono. To our predecessor, to the distinguished keynote speaker, which is Professor Jauh Pedro Costa from Lisbon. Distinguished special guest speaker, Professor Nicholas Ketivotis from Cyprus. And the special guest, our special guest from Lisbon, which is Professor Carlos Diaz Cordero, the DLSA also to our Sitio Pedro Fernandez and Miss Sonia Rodriguez. And also the breakout chairs who are from Australia, Hong Kong, Iran, Taiwan, Morocco, and Nigeria. And also greetings to the ABRA board members, the ISC, and paper presenters. Good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for granting us to be here for the AcE-Bs Cherating Malaysia 2022, which is the 10th Asian Conference on Environment-Behaviour Studies. To begin with today's event, we call upon the conference co-chair for the parents recital. Please, Professor Dr. Masud Sarwono, I will pass it to you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A'udzubillahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Ya Allah, ya Tuhan kami, segala puji hanya bagi-Mu, ya Allah. Tuhan semesta alam, kepadamu kami berserah dan kepadamu jugalah kami memohon perlindungan. Selawat dan salam ke atas junjungan besar Nabi Muhammad SAW, kepada ahli keluarga baginda, para sahabat dan para tabi'in. Ya Allah, kami pohon kepadamu akan keimanan yang sempurna, ya Allah, keyakinan yang benar, ya Allah, ilmu yang berguna, hati yang khusyuk, lidah yang sentiasa berzikir kepadamu, ya Allah. Limpahkanlah dan kurniakanlah kepada kami rezeki yang halal lagi diberkati. Engkau lapangkanlah hati kami dan satukanlah hati-hati kami. Kau berkatilah perhimpunan kami pada hari ini, ya Allah. Semoga ianya diterima sebagai satu perhimpunan yang hanya mengharapkan keridaan darimu, ya Allah. Kau pandanglah kepada usaha kami yang kerdil ini melalui 10 Conference on Environment-Behaviour Studies AcE-Bs2022 sebagai wadah dan usaha yang mulia di sisimu. Kau gunakanlah perjumpaan ini dengan bimbingan yang berterusan. Ya Allah, bantukanlah kami, bimbingkanlah kami untuk meneroka alam ciptaanmu yang amat luas demi ke arah kebaikan dan kemakmuran makhluk sejagat. Kau permudahkanlah untuk kami untuk terus menjalankan aktiviti penyelidikan dan konferensi yang sedang berlangsung ini dan yang akan dirancang di masa hadapan. Kau berkatilah segala usaha kami dan bantukanlah kami untuk tidak mengabaikan tanggungjawab kami sebagai khalifah di muka bumi ini, ya Allah. Kau padamkanlah dan dari hati-hati kami sifat yang tidak Engkau restui, ya Allah. Tanamkanlah di lubuk hati kami dengan sifat-sifat kasih sayang dan bantu-membantu dan bertoleransi. Sesungguhnya hanya kepada Engkaulah kami berserah dan hanya kepada Engkaulah kami memohon perlindungan. Rabbi ighfirli wa liwalidayya warhamhum kama rabbana shaghira. Allahumma ighfir lahum warhamhum wa'afihim wa'fu Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzabannar. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun alal mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Taqabbal minkum. Sadaqallahu azim.
Okay, thank you. Our co-chair. We now invite our chair for his welcoming speech, Professor Dr. Mangoliso. The mic is yours. Professor Dr. Mangoliso. The mic is yours.
Assalamualaikum. Good morning from Cherating, Malaysia. First of all, our apologies for the technical glitches. So we are half an hour late. So the keynote speaker might have to short that. I'm just kidding. We still got half an hour cushion before our dinner, so we still got that cushion. Now there's no more cushion now. Finish breakout straight to dinner. Anyway, terima kasih banyak kita first of all, for this graciousness that we are here today. And secondly, thank you very much for all those who come, especially those from Portugal, all the way to just to be with us. Thank you very much. Our guest from Malaysia. And also Professor Nicholas from Cyprus. Also, today only I know from him that today is 08 June is World Ocean Day. I was not aware until he told me that. And Professor Nicholas actually from the IOI Institute of
International Ocean Institute.
International Ocean Organization. Yeah. Thanks very much. And to the rest, thank you very much. There are familiar faces. There are many new faces. Thank you very much for
Tapi waktu tak pakai speaker tadi mau breakout.
And
Tadi semua aku ambil gambar sikit. Video ada sikit. Belakangan ni.
Yeah, we were in loss of papers for 2 years. So we cannot fly off. So immediately once Malaysia opens up and the rest of the world opens up,
Kamera ni
we
membiar.
will be flying off this year and we will not get back to
Fokus
Malaysia
saja.
until
Tak fokus kat
2024.
aku.
Yeah, what do I mean by that? After this, we will fly off to the near port of Kinabalu, which is still abroad from the peninsula in that sense. Because I promised our Penang participants that after Penang, after Cherating, we will not return back to Malaysia until 2034. So what do we have in store? So immediately after Dr. Kinabalu, yeah, we will be having this in December in Samarkand, inshallah, yeah. So in March, will be hopefully Marrakesh will be there. Then Venice, Italy, followed by Bangkok, and then to Pakistan. So you've got a full spectrum of things. You start opening up your 2023 diary to fit it, yeah. Because from now after the pandemic, yeah, we are gearing up to organize 4 conferences in Malaysia. As you already started with just 2, yeah. And then along the way we increased to 3, and then we increased to 4, and we paused because there were too many choices and not many papers for conference really. So that's why we paused for a while, right? But now I think everybody wants to get away, right? Get off. So the agenda is there for your 2023 diary. Please put in your diary. Okay. Regarding this for today, a bit of housekeeping. Please use this at all times because there will be security checking. Especially for meal time. Do not forget this during meal time. You might be stopped. Okay. So this is your task for the conference and also for the meal and also for the dinner, barbecue dinner tonight. So please, please hold on to this for the whole day. Okay, right. For those who have not received their conference pack, okay, please. There was another guy, Azri. So he handles also the conference pack. Okay, right. Okay.
He's the guy.
This is
He's the one.
Okay. Briefly for today. Immediately after this will be the keynote speaker, and then special guest speaker, and then go for coffee at 11. So I think we need to readjust the time. Anyway, this is a 15 minutes coffee break. Then we are off. For the first, after the first breakout, then we go for lunch, and also do photo at the restaurant by the sea. That's where the lunch is. Then you come back, come back for your breakout 2, and then we have tea break, and then we finish off with breakout 3, and then we pause for a while before we go to dinner. Now dinner is at another ballroom, the pavilion ballroom, right? So that's it for today. And by the way, for those, we will not be posting any things that we didn't get today because that is our policy. Whatever that you need, your conference pack, your certificate, and everything, you have to get it today. Right? We will not post it if you do not. Sometimes you are in a hurry to catch something and you let things and so on. Okay, but this is our policy now that we do not post in the day, right? So please make sure you get whatever you got before you leave for today. We were quite unlucky yesterday because we were supposed to go to the actually for the turtle. Only 2 eggs with the baby inside the egg have not come out, so they cannot send off to the sea because it has not been come off of the egg. So we have and the other thing is actually for the tour, there were a few, there were 21 but every all fizzles out, so we do not provide the bus, but if you have your own transport, you can just follow along according to the itinerary. We will follow the Thursday itinerary if you want to come along, get onto your own car, So with that, thank you very much. I welcome you all today. Please bear with us for any technical glitches which might come along the way. Everything. Okay, thank you very much.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the opening speech by the Dean, FSPUATX, which is also the conference advisor, which is Professor Dr. TPR Jamalulali Abdullah. Please, Professor.
Okay, thank you very much, our MC, Mr. Adib. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and greetings from the faculty, Inshallah. So, conference chair, Professor Yusuf, conference co-chair, Prof. Masran, distinguished keynote speaker, Professor João Pedro Costa from Lisbon, distinguished special guest speaker, Professor Nicholas Kathijots, hope I pronounced correctly, from Cyprus, special guests from Lisbon, Professor Carlos Diaz-Colho, as the Dean of LSA, Architect Sergio Padrov Fernandez, and Ms. Sonia Rodriguez. Welcome to Malaysia. Also breakout chairs from Australia, Hong Kong, Iran, Taiwan, Morocco, and Nigeria. ABRA board members, IC members, as well as paper presenters. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Praise to Allah for granting us to be here today for the AcE-Bs 2022 Cherating Malaysia conference in June of 2022, which is the 10th Asian Conference on Environment-Behaviour Studies, which is held at Holiday Villa Cherating, Pahang, Malaysia. And I apologize for being unable to be there physically this morning, but inshallah I will be meeting with the Lisbon delegates this Friday in the faculty. So AcE-Bs 2022 Cherating is the 37th WoS-indexed International Conference to be organized by AMER Event and Center of Environment-Behaviour Studies of the Faculty Architecture Planning Surveying FSPU UITM. And as usual, the focuses on environment behavior issues affecting the Asian, African, Arabian communities. So for this conference, we managed to attract overall total of 69 abstracts. However, 3 were rejected due to non-compliance and 2 withdrew after that. Based on the 64 approved abstracts, all were contributed by Malaysia as the first author. However, 15 countries contributed as co-authors. So majority were from Indonesia with 32 papers, Saudi Arabia with 7, Australia, Turkey 3 each, Iran, Philippines, Thailand 2 each, and China, Hong Kong, Japan, Jordan, Oman, UK, and USA 1 each. So we can see that all the papers really have very much international flavor. So the abstracts were grouped generally into 16 subcategories. The top 3 categories in order of popularity involve health and healing environment, 15 papers, 23%, commercial, retail, services environment, 6 papers, children, youth environment, design, creative environment, and educational learning environment, all with 4 papers each. So the abstracts were transformed into 56 approved papers. So the paper were later grouped into 15 subcategories, and the top 3 categories in terms of popularity are health and healing environment, which are 14 papers or 25%, commercial, retail, services environment, 6 papers, and working environment, 5 papers. So after the last meeting conference in March of 2022, the organizers have decided to organize 4 international conferences per year, as mentioned by Prof. Yusuf just now, to make up for the losses for the last 2 years due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So completing for 2022, just like to repeat what Prof. Yusuf mentioned just now, will be the 10th AcE-Bs in Kota Kinabalu, Sabah, and also at the end of the year, 13 and 14 December, the 6th ACOL 22 Samarkand, Uzbekistan. And for 2023, Professor Yusuf and the team have lined up in March in Marrakesh, Morocco, in June, Bangkok, September in Venice, and inshallah in December 2023 in Quetta, Pakistan. So congratulations, Prof. Yusuf and the team for your ability to come up with many conferences here. So, as advised by Prof. Yusuf just now, do plan out in advance which paper you would like to be presenting in which conferences. So I wish to acknowledge again to all those present, physically and also virtually, for making this conference a success. Special thanks also extended to the tireless conference crew. So Prof. Yusuf and the team, well done, or as they say in the Navy, and this is World Ocean Day, Bravo Zulu. Okay, so with Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I declare AcE-Bs 2022 Cherating officially open. So do have enlightening conference. Sekian. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you, Professor Dr. Jumulali Abdullah. Ladies and gentlemen, we are quite fortunate to have with us today. Our keynote speaker has flown all the way from Lisbon, Portugal, to deliver his keynote speech entitled Urbanism and Climate Change Adaptation, the Waterfronts.
Good morning. I think you all can hear me in the Zoom also, in the online platform. So I would like first to... Yes? Okay, thank you for your answer. I would like first to give a special thanks for Professor Yusuf for the invitation. This new form of doing conferences with the presential, like we did before, but also now with the participation online on distance, which is a lesson from the 2 years of pandemic we had. And I would go straight to the presentation to keep my 40 minutes once we are delayed. And I will talk to you today about the relation between two disciplines. Urbanism, that is the discipline that deals with the design and the planning of cities and the territory broader than cities also, and the climate change adaptation, which has begun in the 1980s, very isolated in the environmental area, and that has over the years achieved a broader perspective.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah. Okay. I can go. Okay. And to do it, we will focus to a specific part of our territories, which are the waterfronts, which means by doing this, we will straighten our focus to achieve conclusions that might be representative in a broader way. Okay, so I pass here, yeah? Okay. We will consider two frameworks for this discussion. The first framework would be the uncertainty resulting from the speed of transformation of the phenomena, of the contemporary phenomenon, and our capacity to understand it. That means we no longer live in a stable society, in a stable economy. We are living in a society that is very quickly transforming itself to the development of technology, which means we have to constantly adapt to the new developments, and we must also constantly understand what are the implications of the evolution of technology in our way of living, in the behavior of society, in the economy, and to understand its consequences. That means we are not working in a stable ground. And second is that approach that I've just told you. We will look at a sample of a larger reality to, through the understanding of what happened at that sample, achieve larger conclusions. What is this sample is the specific part of territory which has the waterfronts, which has specific characteristics which allow us to have a deeper focus on what's happening on this subject, assuming that the conclusions will be broader and representative of the whole discipline. As a context, I would like to introduce in this discussion, which is about this relation between the development of cities, the development of territory, and technology. And specifically on these technology elements that determine the cycles of industrialization, the cycles of our economy, and the cycles of all that comes after it. And I would very quickly point out to three levels of development since the Industrial Revolution, and make a link between what happens in the territories, in our cities, and what is the basis of the technological cycle. So the first industrialization is stable in literature, this approach, and assumes the coal as the energy source. And the uses of coal as energy source and the technology that supports it is the base on what happens in the territory and on the economy. And to understand it, we must understand this close relation. Because with the achievement of this new energy support, society increased mobility. It was the development of the coal exploration that allowed for the increased mobility, both in the sea and fluvial and by rail. The invention of the train was in fact supported by the achievement of the first industrialization and the use of coal as energy source. As a result, the explosion of port cities took place, and these port cities looked for central locations in the cities, both by, or specifically by creating new landfills in front of the city, occupying new areas that were former river or sea areas. The use of coal as energy basis at that time implied that flat land should exist to support industry. The receival of materials, the transformation in the industry, and the exportation of the products at the end, the development of the rail, all of this needed to occur in flat land, so the importance of these landfills in front of the cities. The railway and the access to the port were the support of the location of industries at that time. And the deposit on warehouses was also an important characteristic of these territories. That means there was no constant in and out of products. Products were received, were stored, and warehouses were transformed in industry, were again stored, and then exported. The development of the city itself resulted from this characteristic. The neighborhoods, the residence of workers needed to be very close, side by side with the industry. That means this direct relation of housing and industry at a period of an enormous pollution of the technology of the coal, use of coal as energy support, implicated that poor conditions of living were offered to the workers at that time. And the occupation of these territories by industry and warehouses and port activity broke the relation of the city with the sea. That is what when we see these films of the beginning of the cinema era with Charlie Chaplin working, and that's the period we are talking about. What happens when technology changes, everything changes. And this is the point I want to figure out in this introduction. With the advent of a new support of in technology in terms of the energy, which is the advent of the use of oil and the petrochemics, this change implied a complete change in all what was related to economy, society, and the use of cities and the territory. So the advent of petrochemics implied an increase in mobility, the maritime, the rail, but also the road, which exploded, and the air mobility that didn't exist before. Port, and that is a constant in every time we have a new cycle, the old areas of production start to enter in decay, and new areas of production are necessary and need to have new land available for development. So the port moves away from the city. The original areas of industry of the first industrialization started slowly to decay, and new areas of port and industrial development are generated, getting away and away from the cities, moving to the periphery and downstreams in the river through new landfills. This new industry, the petrochemics, now implies distance regarding the city. You cannot have deposits of oil side by side with the city or other similar activities due to security reasons and due to pollution reasons. Again, flatlands are necessary. So the seek of cities for flatlands to accommodate these activities and these industries. And again, the access to the railroad and to the port is necessary. The urban growth is now supported by the individual mobility. That means this new technology allowed the collective transport to move away from the tracks and to occupy all the suburban areas. The bus and the car as an individual form of transportation don't need anymore to follow the tracks as the rail. So the pattern of metropolitan development was able to occur because there was a new technology that supported the transportation, both collective and individual, in the area spread that formerly was not possible. And this form of this explosion of the metropolitan areas due to this support that allows the introduction of zoning. This idea that we can separate functions results from the capacities of transportation that the new energetic technology allows. Formerly, as we saw in the first period, we could not do this. And so what happens is every time the cycle of technology occurs, the areas of production of the former cycle start to decay and the areas of new production occupy new territories. That's why progressively we had started to have former industrial and port areas available for redevelopment in the center of cities. It was these areas of the first industrialization that progressively enter in decay. But all of this is the past. And the question is, what is happening now? And the lesson from the past that I've tried to point out is that every time technology changes with implications on the energy or on the mobility, cities and territories also change. And if we understand that, we need also, it allows us to move forward and to try to figure out what are the changes in technology that are taking place today, and what are the implications of these changes in the economy, in our society, and as a result, in the use of what we do with our territories. So discussion is in place and still maintains this idea for a post-industrial society, which we believe is not at all post-industrial. We are more and more industrialized as ever. We have never been so industrialized as today. So I would say that we are in this, several authors say that we are living a third industrialization. Some authors still point out to a fourth industrialization, which still is not consequent on the territory, which is now replacing the petrochemics and the oil as energy source by what we call the post-carbon society, by the clean, what happened, the clean energies that progressively are replacing the cycle of the second industrialization. And that has implications, again, on the territory. The logistical port and recreational port are replacing the forms of the petrochemical and oil port. What is the support of this, I'm going to give a step back, what is the support of this third industrialization is the chip, and the implication that this allows for the development of the computer and until the fourth, what we call the fourth industrialization, the AE, the artificial intelligence. All of these allow and imply profound changes. And we ask ourselves which are the new mobility paradigms that we're moving on in our contemporary society. We know that industries, again, are the second relocation. We know that new industries were grown, like the recreation, tourism, and others. Is this mobility that allow us to be here for professors from Portugal and one from Cyprus, and to have all these realities all around the world that was a reality in the 1960s. The chain of production completely changed. We no longer need warehouses. I used to tell this story. If I had a shop of one product in a shopping center all around the world in Lisbon, and I'm selling clothes, for instance, when the jackets are sold out, I put the finger on the computer, on the order, or I order in the computer. The order goes to the logistics center in Portugal, to the logistics center in Europe. It starts to be produced in China. 2 days later, it's shipped on the large boat that goes to Rotterdam, and then leaves the product in Lisbon. And a week and a half later, I have my clothes in my shop in Lisbon to sell. 1 week and a half later, the order of my shop, local shop. So we don't need warehouses. All this is supported by the fact that we have a new technology behind it. Let me move forward. Again, the metropolitan areas are restructuring themselves as a result of this. And again, we are liberating spaces that we needed before, that we no longer needed for urban renovation, and we are seeking for new areas to accommodate the contemporary functions. This new industry doesn't need anymore to be separated from the city. I can have this technological industry side by side with my house, inside the city center, which is the opposite of what we had before. So we don't need to segregate functions, and on the contrary, we start to give value to have functions side by side, because by having industry inside the city, we don't need to use the car every day to move back and forth. And so this is the context I would like to point out, because it's this, in this approach that the development, the growing idea, and the capacity to understand that climate is changing on our society takes place. This idea and the capacity of our society to look to the transformation of climate is supported both by the technological support we have to understand what is happening, and by the fact that we are able to start to cut the dependence from the causes of climate change. If we were completely dependent on the second technological cycle, we were completely dependent on oil, and so it was not possible to move forward and give a step to a post-carbon society and to this, an approach in where we want to give away the pollution that causes climate change and to move forward the clean industries. Climate change, it is happening, and I will move forward to respect the time of Professor Yusuf. I just want to note that we have international reports and technical studies showing with scientific evidence and measuring with accuracy the levels of transformation, being able to project in what direction is the planet moving as we don't change our forms of pollution in the planet. I will very quickly point out that regarding the waterfront, it is very important the concentration of the heat in the poles, which is where the large masses of ice are in our planet, and that will contribute to several phenomena, which in terms of the waterfront areas, the sea level rise might be one of the most significant. Other reasons also can come. We have evidence of sea level rise in the last years, and you know that is a growing process with a very large inertia, but once it starts, it's very difficult to stop. And also we can measure, and we have international recognized associations like IPCC making assessments on relating the level of production, the emission of CO2, and the implications in terms of heating of the planet and in terms of sea level rise. These reports are being updated, and what is important to retain is that independently on how we go in the future, in our capacity to reduce emissions or not to be so efficient in the reducing of emissions, we are surely getting into the direction of a change of climate, of accelerated change of climate, and on the regarding again our sample, the waterfronts, on the sea level rise on our territories. We also have projections geographically applied, so we have the capacity to figure out specifically on different regions what are the impacts. And again, focus on specific sea level rise. We have projections of different authors. Of course, these are projections, so we have scenarios. We don't have the capacity to predict future in 100% certain, but we are able to produce scenarios and to relate the scenarios we have with our level of emissions as a global society. We also have institutional approaches in several countries around the world, which update specifically for the country or for a region the implications of the global level of emission, because there are specificities at that level. And it's very, I'm not pointing out the numbers, you can see it, it's very threatening to observe that very easily we can have 1 meter, 1.5 meters of sea level rise by the end of the century, depending on our capacity of emissions, of reducing or not the emissions. You can imagine in a place like the one we are today, what would be the impact of 1 meter sea level rise or 1.5 meters sea level rise in the day of storm, for instance, and the implication that in terms of the sea and of the water coming from the interior that we can have. To be quick and go ahead, I would say we have kind of a joke. We have a positive proof that global warming is taking place. And the ones that don't believe it will certainly face the consequences, because it is a reality that is happening in our common world. What happens specifically in the planning of cities? And climate change has been present since the last decades in the planning of cities. And it was kind of a parallel approach to the climate change science. Since the Rio conference, that the climate change since the 1980s, that climate change is being discussed all around the world. But has been discussed in the perspective which is political also, that mitigation was the first and major approach, which means mitigation is the reduction of the causes of climate change. And so all the international agenda has been, since the 1980s, putting an emphasis on the approach of mitigation. And that means reduction the emission of CO2 and increases of green areas to absorb the excess of CO2. Why? Because that was the political orientation, and it is the only structural form to avoid worst consequences, is to clearly reduce the emissions. And other approaches like adaptation were not very popular. Why? Because the idea that we need to adapt to climate change as a background that we are not being successful in terms of reduce our emissions. If you assume we need to adapt, you partially accepted that climate change will go and grow, and so the success of mitigation is kind of, okay, we'll do some mitigation, but we will not be as efficient as we could. And so in the first decades, all the international organizations, all the policies were moving, all the agenda was absolutely focused on the idea of mitigation, and the idea of adapt was not very popular, was not very, I would say, politically correct. Until the last 2 decades, I will explain in a minute. And the speech in the design of cities, the agenda in architecture has followed the same. Sometimes even without understanding, even without having absolute conscience that we are doing that. For instance, this debate between compact city, which in fact is a carbon diet city, and the urban sprawl, which in fact is a carbon obese model of development, as a background of the mitigation to climate change. We want to have compact cities because it reduces emissions. It was not always like that. We remember in the 1960s, for instance, in the United States, the compact city was a negative form of development because it was the highest moment of the Cold War, and the nuclear bomb could destroy the entire city. And so it was a bad model of development, and the sprawl was a good model of development because a nuclear bomb could not destroy an area which is spread largely. Also, this idea of sustainable communities, the background, in fact, is the idea that we need to mitigate the climate change in our cities. The idea of eco-urbanism, this idea of moving to the scale of the building, microgeneration, solar energy, passive solar, the emphasis on the efficiency of energy, the idea of green cities, that means increasing the capacity to absorb CO2, all these politically correct ideas that we have in our cities in architecture were had in fact as a background the idea of mitigating the climate change. So what happened in the last decades that maintaining the idea of mitigation justified the progressive growth of the idea of adaptation. This idea that we need to adapt to climate change means that we are not absolutely successful in our mitigation policy. So that's the hardest part in terms of our thinking, our approach to the problem. But contrarily to the mitigation agenda, which is clearly top-down, United Nations, countries, cities, everybody in their home, the adaptation agenda emerged in the 2000s occur in any society and territories that are exposed to these areas, and that in scenarios of climate change, in scenarios of sea level rise, in scenarios of changing in the patterns of storms, that occurrences, 5 minutes, that occurrences could be faster. And so we had policies in several countries to adapt the countries, to adapt cities, to adapt regions to climate change, like in the Netherlands, with a national plan in 2008, like in Rotterdam, for instance, that development plan where a zoning again was created, a zoning to contain waters from the rain without being able to drop them in the river because the river will be high due to sea level rise. Project has changed also in the cities. That means new ideas of project that neighborhoods need to be able to contain the water and not launch them in the sewers or in the river because that's no longer possible. And so in this, they are not longer theoretical projects, they are built up and they are being tested, like you have squares and playing gardens, playing areas that are simultaneously areas of deposit in the periods of fast rains. Which are, we have adapted, creating public spaces of quality that are also prepared to accommodate extra water in these periods of extreme raining. In the United States, it is very curious because it is a country that didn't sign, for instance, the Kyoto Protocol, so didn't splendidly assume the mitigation policy at political level, national level, but in fact, at the local level, this bottom-up approach justified several development of several planning, like in San Francisco, where planning was done to test the impacts of climate change. They understood, for instance, the 3 airports would be affected by sea level rise in the scenarios they had, or some parts of Silicon Valley or other key productive areas. And so cities are measuring the impacts of climate change and developing ideas on how to approach. New York also, that had some background experience on regarding how to deal with hurricanes, but that adapt and move forward from that planning to the planning of observing what's the impact of flooding and the impact specifically on the densely urban areas. And I will move forward. So that means getting the conscience of what can happen to those cities, and again, trying to start to develop ideas on how to deal with it. A constant is that more and more the approach to deal with climate change adaptation is through natural processes and less through infrastructures. There's a reason for that. We won't have time to discuss it now. For instance, in Maryland, the state that in the country that didn't subscribe to Kyoto, people received at the post mail this element that explains to the citizens the impacts of climate change in the local community. Also in the United Kingdom, where scenarios have been developed to understand the impact of climate change in the cities, and developing 3 adaptation strategies. The first was what they call retreat, is abandon the areas that are affected, getting renaturalized and rebuild the city in the other areas. The second that they call defend, is to build like kind of walls to protect the city from sea level rise. But these walls are also a problem because when you have the water coming from the interior, it doesn't allow the water to move towards the river, so it has negative impacts. And what they call attack is to learn how to live with the water, which is more and more the approach that is being developed. The Thames to Erie is also has also developed a climate change adaptation policy, in this case in zoning different areas and impacts at different levels of flooding and the effect on infrastructure, on public facilities, hospitals, and the definition of areas of safety. And we also did it in Lisbon. I will move, I think I'm over the time now, so I will very quickly only show some studies that we have developed, the observation of the impact of climate change in our waterfronts and different sea level rise scenarios, and which is historical photos, the present, and tipping point of 4 meters and 4.45 meters, and the possible impacts if that really takes place in the areas, urban areas which are today, and the demand measuring, housing, offices, infrastructure, what is affected, and also developing policies to better avoid, and also working with students to develop some scenarios of projects to progressively adapt to climate change our cities. So to conclude, we would say that we are on the beginning of a new era of designing and thinking and planning our cities, and we need to build a relationship between the planning disciplines and the climate change knowledge, which was in the past not so frequent as in the way of work. We need to plan, we need to design, we need to manage our territory in what we call no longer unpredictable climate scenarios, because now we can predict, but they are unpredictable, what we call unpredictable climate scenarios. We have different scenarios of climate change. We don't know, because it depends on our behavior as a global society, we don't know exactly which scenario will occur in 2050 or 2100. It depends on all of ourselves, in our societies, but we have climate change scenarios. We know they exist. So they are no longer unpredictable. They are what we call unpredictable. We must start to anticipate, and that's a quite different approach. It's what we call the what-if scenarios, the what-if agenda. If these scenarios that the scientists of climate do in fact occur, what happens to our cities? What happens to our waterfront? What happens to our ports, to our industry? We need to start to work a new time horizon. We used to make plans for 10 years, and then another plan would come. When we deal with this problem, we start to work with 2050 or 2100. And so we have to learn how to plan with these scenarios. If we have to make a decision on moving some urban area out because in 50 years late it might be flooded, shall we take the decision or shall we leave to the next one? Yeah, because it's not urgent. So we don't know exactly how to manage the importance of these decisions. We need to have a new perspective on the local risk factors resulting from climate change. I'm just concluding. We need to recover lessons from the past, and we need to develop innovative solutions to face these problems. And finally, we need to find also new forms of governance. And I will leave you with some final questions to maybe discuss. Probably they don't have answers, but they need to be put on the table. So we all have very important short-term agendas. Economical, urban development. What is in this sequence of short-term agendas, when do we have the time to address climate change and the impacts of cities? Will we follow the next 20 years short-term agenda one after the other and then face the consequences of climate change? Or shall we introduce it today in our discussion? What use should we do to the knowledge we have in all the disciplines that work in territory and environment to approach the relation to climate change agenda? And the final question regarding the climate change adaptation of our territories, is it still today time to look to the other way, or shall we need to start to face it today because it's happening? So it's 3 questions I'll leave you to conclude. Thank you very much. I respected the time.
We are now open to Q&A for the keynote speaker. If anybody has any questions regarding about the topic. Are there any questions? Yeah, okay.
Just a quick question. The world now are talking about food and agriculture, and we are expecting a shortage of food supply in the near future. And what are the direction of industrialization following this issue and its impact to urbanism?
Thank you very much. It's one of the issues of new regionalization. This new approach to the subject, we are complying with them that we need to have more and more food production processes. We cannot depend on the global economy, but we cannot be absolutely dependent on inputs coming from Chile and has this global transportation mode that consumes energy, and we need more and more to proximity production in terms of food. So there are lots of movements of agriculture, redevelop local agriculture that in the last decades were partially abandoned to large economic approaches. This idea of having a local agricultural production closer of the fresh products closer to the metropolitan areas. And we also, in the recent last years, 2 years, COVID, war, we also start to deal with the rupture of global change. All that industry also improves, and that also, I think, is a sign of kind of new regionalization after some decades when the industry became global. Germany to produce a Mercedes in the shipwreck comes from China. Now that we have the rupture of global chains, Mercedes needs to start to produce cheap closer to Germany. Cannot depend on cheap from China. So this idea of a new regionalization of industry after some decades of globalization of industry, and that includes alimentary food industry, is, I think, on the table today and for the next decades. So particularly, answering your question, I believe that we have also a new regionalization of agriculture, and that countries and regions need to rebuild the capacity of self-supply food for the society. That doesn't mean that we are ending the global market. It means that we are becoming more resilient in order to, if we have disturbances in the global market, or if it's not working, we are not going to cut for the vaccine because it looks forward. We have answers at the local level.
Ladies and gentlemen, happy World Ocean Day. It is my pleasure to be back in this beautiful country, Malaysia. And it was my first choice when I decided to present something on the World Ocean Day. Malaysia combines a lot of things. Combines beautiful weather, combines very good scenery, combines very hospitable people, and it's really a pleasure every time I am here. So let me just say salamat pagi, assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and may God bless you all. Let me get this rather. So for this World Ocean Day, I think let us try to, we'll all try to participate. You know, I don't like us to talk here and then other people to talk at different corners. Okay, let's just participate. The theme for this year is the revitalization and collective action for the ocean. So how we are all going to do a collective action for the ocean this year. Now, what does marine pollution mean? Many times we are stuck with meanings and we don't really understand what they mean. What is marine pollution? And the aim of my lecture today is to aware, as the aim of this World Ocean Day, is to make people aware about the problems of the oceans and how can we all together handle them. Because ocean offers life to us. It's very important. So, marine pollution meaning debris, chemicals, and microbial pollution. It could be these three things there. Algae and jellyfish also bloom, cause a wide range of environmental, social, economic, and health-related negative impacts. Algae and jellyfish, okay, I think you're well aware here in Malaysia of this phenomena. Many economic sectors are directly affected, especially agriculture, aquaculture, fisheries, commercial shipping, recreational boating, coastal municipalities, coastal tourism, and the emergency rescue services. So over here, you will see the pollutants entering the ocean in terms of percentages. And you see, for example, industrial wastewater is 10%, offshore oil is 3%, litter 5%, sewerage 30%, and so on and so forth. So let us see now. This is some pictures of, I believe people like pictures, so I tried to put as many pictures as I could. On the left-hand side, you see algae and jellyfish blooms. Okay, I'm sure you've seen that in Malaysia, and I'm sure you see also the jellyfish blooms. I don't know if you've seen them at that level, but that picture is from Australia, and this picture is from Canada, I think. Okay, this happened. You want to cut it? I can sit down and stop. Okay, over there, these blooms originate to the extensive addition of organic matter into the sea. Okay, when you give organic matter, then we have growth of algae and eventually growth of the increase of jellyfish. Let us, however, also see what happens and how does these inputs enter the ocean. They can enter the ocean through particles falling down. Okay, they can enter the ocean into a floating and floating mode, or they can enter the ocean here in terms of biota. These animals and ocean living ocean creatures create pollution which enters the ocean. So we have input via ships on the left. We have chemical inputs from factories, industries, and so on. And then we have input from the biota. One of the most important issues in ocean pollution, and everybody I think agrees with that, are the plastics. I went to supermarket a couple of times here in Malaysia, and I've seen that even supermarkets here start giving out ecological packages for your products which you buy. They do not give the plastic ones anymore. Of course, they do in some cases, but I see a movement into that. And many people say, but what is this plastics? It's not a big deal. It's a big deal. Okay? Plastics, I'll explain to you why. The microplastic is clearly visible. It's just just a bag. And can be caught, it can easily be caught and is to say it is in an easy way and will not, with a few exceptions, have a direct impact on the food chain. The microplastic, the larger particles, macroplastic. The microplastics, which means small pieces 1 to 5 millimeter in diameter, are floating in our oceans like a soup and finding their way directly or spontaneously into the food chain due to their size. Macroplastic degraded into... Huh?
Because the participants in the Zoom can see the slides moving.
Huh?
It's okay. Just see. Sorry, for the convenience. Mau tengok slide tukar tak? Tukar. Tukar. Tak, dia tak off. Tukar.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we have macroplastics, the bigger size plastics, bags. Microplastics are 1 to 5 millimeters in size. They're floating. And then we have the often the nanoplastics that are greater than, less than 100 nanometers in size, and they may be emitted or formed into the aquatic environment. Nanoplastics is probably the least known area of marine litter, but potentially the most hazardous. Over here, you see the definition of size. The size is important. The definition of size of the plastics that enter the sea. And different authors and researchers have determined their own way of measuring the size of microplastics. This is a table here that shows what are nanoplastics, microplastics, mesoplastics, and macroplastics. Right? It is important to understand the terminology. Otherwise, one says one thing, the other one understands another thing. All right? We are most concerned. The most concerned are the smaller ones. Now, I will take some time on this this slide, and this shows how is the sea polluted and how it can be cleaned. Let us start from here, and the red arrows show the pollution that goes into the sea. That goes from landfills. Okay, you throw the garbage in the soil, you cover it, then it drains and then goes through the groundwater and enters the sea. Okay, that's a serious inflow of pollutants into the sea. The other one is from rivers. When rivers come in, they bring all the pollutants that are thrown throughout the flow of this river and right into the sea. From beaches, there are a lot of things. We go to the beach, we throw here cans, we throw plastics, we throw whatever we want, and then that eventually ends up into the sea. From urban settlements, from cities, all right? Many things floating around, many influence through the groundwater, through the sewerage system, and so on and so forth. Ports, of course, you realize why. Naval accidents sometimes. Fisheries and marine transportation. Fisheries, do fisheries pollute? Yes, fisheries pollute, especially aquaculture is a heavy pollutant. Now, how do we control this? There are some techniques, but there are also some techniques, and the most important technique is to control at source. Okay? If you control at source, then you have a better effect. How do you control at source? You reduce the amount of inflow from landfills with different techniques. You collect and recycle, so not everything goes into the landfill. You put the wastewater treatment filters to clean the wastewater that enters into the sea before it goes into the sea. And I'm going to filters, I'm going to talk something about jellyfish later on. Reverse mount filters, beach cleanups. Many of our students go to the beach once in a while and clean the beach. filter and highway and urban runoff recycling, debris reception facilities, the dredging and the sedimentary cleanup, trawling, collecting the floating right here. Some people suggested platforms that will go down, grab dirt from the bottom and bring it up. Some people suggested recycling at the beach. It's all these are the methods. There's nothing more. And first of all, we have to, knowing this, we have to take our measures and we have to educate people. The International Ocean Institute is offering online courses free in order to educate people to how to handle this ocean pollution. Now, there's one thing that I give lectures quite often, and that's the topic of blue economy. And many people ask, what is this blue economy? What does that mean? If we see the concept of ocean economy, the ocean economy is going around this seafood. That's where we get seafood from the ocean. That's a big thing. Marine biotechnologies, energy, transportation, tourism, carbon, coastal protection, waste disposal, biodiversity. All these are the activities and that go around ocean economy. On the other hand, this is a natural capital assets, add and subtract from these activities. So this is where here at the little red triangles, this is where our policies come in if we are going to approach the topic, not technically, but through management, and see, and then start controlling and analyzing what goes in and what comes out. Okay? Now, what is blue economy? Blue economy is a sustainable ocean economy that emerges when economic activity is in balance with the long-term capacity of ocean ecosystems to support this activity and remain resilient and healthy. Let us, I will take one more minute and explain this in more understandable language, okay? If we say this area here, this big auditorium here, and understanding also that the environment has the capacity, the ability to neutralize biodegradables, okay? It can take, if we throw 5 boxes of biodegradable wastes into this area here, in 1 week there won't be anything because it will be biodegraded. The area is big enough to decompose the system. If I sow 500 boxes here, then it won't be. And then the next week, again 500, I will start accumulating dirt in this area. And because the area here cannot handle that, so is the sea. The sea can handle a certain amount of pollution. If I load it twice as much or more than that, this means that as time goes by, pollution will be accumulated. And then I will be increasing the problem. So blue economy is cleaning the sea in such a way and controlling all these parameters which I said before, so that you will have space for further development, for further economic development. So cleaning and developing go together. You don't just go developing, and then at the at the end, then you have a very dirty situation. On the other hand, you do not stop development just for the sake of environment. So these two have to go together, and there is the word here that says is in balance with the long-term capacity of ocean ecosystems to support this activity. So growth in the ocean and declining health of ocean environment. So the growth goes up and declining goes down. This has to be to balance it somehow. Now, collection and handling, recycling of marine plastics. I'm not going to take too much time explaining this, but I'm going to go to the next slide. I've already covered that topic. And the next slide talks about cleanups in the beach. Okay, many students are doing this work. Many environmental groups are taking this opportunity to clean the beach at their own time and their own free time when they have a holiday, and so the beaches eventually become cleaner and cleaner. May I tell you that if what we collect from there, from the beach and from the polluting areas, they can either be recycled into energy recovery, or they can be recycled into material like plastic, which can be reused. Okay, so I will. This you can see on the left that we are talking about recycling here. Plastics are sorted and crushed with flakes, washed, dried, and sorted again. So we get the plastics, we crush them, we sort them again, and we give them back for reuse. I know China buys tremendous amounts of recycling plastics, which they reuse in making toys and many other plastic material. This is where in Cyprus and Europe sells a lot of plastic for recycling. And also on the left, you see many of the recycling materials are used for energy recovery. That's where we, you can see there are over here plastics which cannot be recycled, which cannot be degradable, can be used in an efficient way to produce energy and to produce electricity and so on, heat. These are some of the things that in some areas around the beach they sell. And all these ornaments were prepared from whatever wastes were collected from the beach. So you see, you can collect, students can do that job and collect and make money and sell them to tourists. And at the same time, they will be cleaning the beach. And as I said, they will also make some money. These are all from wastes found in the beach. Over here, you see that from the whatever is collected, 64% is recycled, 46% is energy recovery, and 38% goes to landfills. Now, let's see about the aquatic biomass. You see this, all these biomass, algae, and these algae are good, and they can be used for biofuel, for the production of biofuel. So in some areas, like in France and Italy, they are harvesting this algae, and this harvest, they have certain equipment that boating that collects the algae, and these algae are processed in such a way as to produce biofuels or biodiesels. Algae biomass can produce oil through biochemical conversion on your left. They can produce, what's that? I don't see. I don't have my glasses. And okay, gasification. They can produce fermentation. Through all this process, they produce the relevant products that are shown in the table. So algae can be something which we can use well in producing energy and biofuel. So algae for biofuels, if you look at this circle, sun contributes to the growth of algae, oil extraction from the algae, This protein here and the residue goes to biodiesel production. And this biodiesel production produces glycerin products, and at the same time, the pump goes to the pump. The renewable fuel goes into the existing technology. That produces carbon dioxide burning, and algae as a renewable resource, and they go on there contributing to the growth of algae. So we have a circular effect that you see in nature. Many things, all things are circling around. They produce circles, and that's where we work. We have to help a circle, increase it, control things that need to be controlled, and so on. Now, the jellyfish issue, even Dr. Abbas was asking me yesterday. Everybody in Malaysia knows about jellyfish, okay? And you know, these little creatures, many of us don't like them. We don't like them because they create problems to the sea. I went yesterday swimming, but I didn't know if there was jellyfish. And sometimes jellyfish can be very hazardous. I see many people here come to this hotel, for example, Malaysian people, and they take their children to the swimming pools. Now, my question is, why don't they use the sea, which gives iodine to the children, it's natural salt, there is all the benefits you get from sea swimming are much more than what you get from the swimming pool. Right? Perhaps there are some reasons which I don't know, but perhaps also it's the jellyfish or other deleterious materials or safety reasons or whatever. But jellyfish, have you ever eaten a jellyfish? No? The lady here, have you ever eaten a jellyfish?
Some of the jellyfish we have in the ocean around Peninsula Malaysia, they're toxic.
Some of the jellyfish, she says that they are in the ocean, they are toxic. Have you been to China? Some of you, anybody went to China? Did you see jellyfish sold in Yes. Jellyfish are sold like potato chips. So it's a snack. All right? Now, the suggestion in this project, in order to, well, the previous suggestion for algae was to collect them and produce biofuels, which is a cleaning process. Now, with the jellyfish, again, it's to collect them, take the mucus out, mucus, jelly material, and that mucus, you can make a flocculating material for wastewater treatment. Let us see what the issue was here. All right, on your left, you see an aqueous phase contaminated with nanoplastics. On the left, you see this solution is contaminated with nanoplastics, very small and, as we said, dangerous plastics, which don't settle. Why don't they settle? Because they are not heavy enough to settle. They just hang around. Those are the most dangerous ones. Even in the atmosphere, from pollution from particulates that go around and don't settle, they're the most dangerous ones because we breathe them and they stay in our chest, in our lungs. So, on the left, A is a solution that is contaminated with nanoplastics. On the right, there is a solution which is enhanced with mucus. In that case, you see, instead of hanging around, mucus has created a bonding effect between the nanoplastics, and many of these nanoplastics have settled. So the idea was to use this here to control the nanoplastics, which you can eventually remove, right? And this, at the same time, controls jellyfish, because they have to be collected and killed and take the mucus out and so on. What are we going to do with the rest? Okay, let's see. These are products, if people who don't believe me, these are products that are sold in supermarkets. I've seen them in China myself, personally. They are jellyfish which are dried and they are used as a snack. Okay, so eat jellyfish, and this lady said before that they are polluting, correct? Some of them are dangerous, but the scientists are trying to find ways to eliminate this animal, if you want to call it that way, from our seas, which is a polluting one. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your attention. Terima kasih, and I will be here if you need something. Thank you very much. On time, huh? Hey. Oh, I took it with me. I take it home.
Okay.
Any questions? I saw I didn't ask.
It's okay. A round of applause for Professor Katiotes. Okay, now we should now have our coffee break. Please be ready in your correct breakout room because the coffee break was supposed to start at 11 a.m. But since we dragged the time a bit up the front, so since right now it's 11:20, so please be ready in your correct breakout room by 11:35 for the breakout one session. After this session, we will have our group photo and lunch at the restaurant by the sea. Please be punctual for the breakout 2, which commences at 2:30 p.m. Tea shall then be served at 4:45 p.m. followed by the commencement of breakout 3 session at 5:15 p.m. We should then have a 30-minute break before we have our seafood BBQ dinner, which shall commence at 8:30 p.m. Do give your best shot when presenting. Let's rush for our coffee now. Thank you. If anybody has any questions about the program, anything you don't understand, you can ask us, the organizers, anything about the conference, if there's any problem or any difficulties. Thank you.
Hello, Professor David. Dr. David.
Hi.
Yes. Yes. Hello. Yes.
Hi.
Hello. Yeah, we're waiting for the first presenter, which is virtual. Mr. Azli Abdullah, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Ah, yes. Okay, thank you. So I will.
Can you hear me?
Ah, yes.
Yes, I can.
Okay, good.
Okay, I will leave it.
Are we ready to go then?
Yes, we are ready to go.
Okay, cool. Right. Sorry for the delay, chaps. My name's Dave Osborne. I'm chairing this session. The rules are, as you know, 10 minutes presentation and 5 minutes for Q&A. We've got a tight schedule and we're running a little bit late, so I would really appreciate if you could watch your time. I'll give you a nod quite loudly when you have 3 minutes left, so please wrap it up within the time, okay?
Okay.
Having said that, I'll leave you to it. So this is Azli bin Abdullah, yeah?
Yes, correct.
Great stuff. Good morning and thanks for joining us, and it's all yours. Take it away.
Okay. Without further ado, I'm Azli bin Abdullah, and thank you, our chairman, Dr. David Robert Osborne, and all the presenters today. So I will present my paper today, the Malay settlement, vanishing world. So, without Without further ado, the question has been raised regarding the urbanization in which the Malay culture is forgotten. So this paper used this method by way a case study on the age of the Malay settlement in Kota Baru, Kelantan, Malaysia. And then 350 questionnaires were distributed, while random interview provided a more precise explanation of the Malay community in the real world. Traditionally, this settlement is inhabited by the Malays and is well known for its high culture and architecture values. And then this study is found that urbanization has critically influenced the culture and identity of Malay communities in their settlement. The loss of Malay settlements in Kota Baru led to the loss of the Malay culture and identity of in their community. So the challenge of urbanization is in Malaysia is since the beginning of the British rule in Malaya, the growth of the state economy has been divided into two sectors, which is the modern and traditional industries. The Western founded modern sector integrate the global economy and add advanced business system, which should customize the current global situation. And then on the other hand, the agriculture economy was further classified by its enclave, existed independently and was only inadvertently linked to the outside world. So the city's mining and farm sectors were expanding in these commercial and industrial sectors. And then while traditional industry was stagnant and gradually deteriorate due to the population expansion, the revenue contrast between the two industries grew unbalanced, which consequently contaminated the social and cultural difference. In fact, according to the Finland 2005, Malay agriculture provided continuous support to urban society, but the colonial government during that time policies was unfair to the agriculture sector compared to other industry. And then after that, the social discrimination against the Malay by non-Malay controlled business and industry groups has exists. The majority of the Malay live in areas with no electrical city, roads, clean water supply, and etc. Thus exposing them to various diseases. According to Abdul Rahman, 1971, European, Chinese, and Indians were mainly involved in the modern economic sectors, working as entrepreneurs, managers, and employees in industry, farms, and trading companies. Since the Malay worked in the traditional agriculture sector as a fisherman, their income were relatively low. And then their only low-wage job in the city were available to them, such as becoming gardeners, drivers, or security guards. One of the causes of the Malay poverty was colonialism. Moreover, upon the shifting political power from the Malay to British colonialists, the Malay fate became bleak, unknown, and to the industry and even new cities, and that urbanization to the rural and agriculture areas. Around the city is the focus on the Malay settlement around Kota Baru, Kelantan. Kota Baru, Kelantan, Malaysia as a case study. Total 8 settlements were selected to identify the impact of urbanization on the Malay community. The study objective is to examine and explore the effect of rapid urbanization on a Malay settlement. Besides, the idea of community conservation is still new in Malaysia. There are still lack of research to preserve the existing Malay settlement based on the acoustic theory that was introduced by Dr. Sedis in 1972. Most of the study in the built environment in Malaysia are focused on inventory research, as mentioned by Wahid in 2020, which revolve around the building conservation, wood carving motif, space in traditional houses and traditional building materials, and to name a few. On the other hand, this research is focused on research direction in the Malay community conservation in Malaysia. The research is the researcher used the mixed method approach in study, since the study encapsulates both social, culture, and physical aspect. The focus of the research was classified as an exploratory technique. The researcher then submit. Then, as before, 8 Malay settlements were selected for a case study in Kota Baru to strengthen the data. The innovation technique applied by Lynch are remarkable effective in determining the physical character of the study. Compound with pictorial documentation and was This is a case study. This is the Atas Palu village, Kota Baru, that we have around 8 settlements in the urban areas. Analysis from the table 1, why is the Malay slowly forgotten? According to the questionnaire of the local community in art and culture, most Malay artwork is extremely complex and difficult to produce. Furthermore, such products are difficult to sell due to the competition from the loss of culture and replace a new way of life based on the current trend through technology. However, because the settlement has destroyed, technology is no longer an option to save culture. The loss of a settlement living museum is a consequence of its destruction. Okay, finally, Malay culture can be seen as an exhibition and demonstration of culture. So I think that's all from me, Prof. Hello?
That's great, thank you. There's a bit of background noise. Thank you so much. Your timekeeping was excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Most good, excellent. Before I start, any questions from the floor, please? Come, don't be shy. Okay, nobody's leaping forward. I have a couple of quick questions for you. I find it quite interesting, this kind of the loss of livelihood plus the loss of culture. And particularly the lack of young people wanting to get involved in this. In your opinion, what you found out, how much of it is literally a lack of interest with the young people in the culture, or simply a lack of, if they pursue a career in the culture, they can't make any money? So is it an economic issue, or is it a lack of interest issue?
Yes, based on my research, the most affected is about the economic factors, because this area is a lack of the job opportunities. So the young people, they have to migrate to the other areas, and then it's about the cost of urbanization in this area, and then the competition. The other region like Thailand and Indonesia, for example, in the art making works, because they produce the more product and very cheap. So from this situation, the practitioner or like the artwork maker, they cannot compete the price that produced by the others country. So some of them, when the younger generations see this is it's like a treatment for the culture and heritage, they don't have any choice whether they have to leave it or they must adapt that situation.
That's interesting. The idea that that you are in competition with the culture of Malaysia versus the culture of, say, Indonesia or somebody else. That seems like it shouldn't exist. You have very much your own culture. Does the government not want to encourage the promotion, not from an economic point of view, but just from a cultural point of view?
Yes,
do they not want to step in and encourage more activity?
Yes, of course, the government is always support their industry, but now during the some of the practitioner or this is some of the lack of the, I think, the lack of the management in our industry. Okay, that's all.
That's great.
Is it I'm answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Thank you. I mean, I'd like to pursue this further, but time is against me. So if any questions from the floor, any questions? Okay, that's it. Thank you so much, Mr.
Okay, thank you.
Abdullah. Thank you.
Dr. David.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving right on. Miss Sharif, do we have Miss Sharif in the audience, in the house? I see movement. I see movement. Ooh, people. Looking for Miss Sharif.
I'm here, Doctor.
You are Miss Sharif? Hey, good stuff. Okay, listen, right, 10 minutes. Try to watch the time for me, please. And you are, this is the integration of Islamic personality. Is that your topic, yeah? Can you hear me?
Okay, hold on, Doctor.
Okay, you have the floor. Go for it.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day. A greeting to the chairman, Dr. David, and also my fellow presenters. Okay, I hope my voice can be heard. Okay, I'm Irina from Universiti Teknologi MARA, and today the topic of my presentation is the integration of Islamic personality in radiation protection practice among Muslim radiographers. Okay, so for the introduction, medical imaging is a subspecialization of medicine which deals with the productions of human body images for diagnostic and treatment purpose. So the practitioner in medical imaging is called radiographer. So in medical imaging, we have two equipment. The one which using ionizing radiation, for example, general X-ray, mammography, CT scan, fluoroscopy, and also nuclear medicine. Because the second one, which is non-ionizing radiation such as ultrasound and also magnetic imaging. Okay, the issue here is the usage of ionizing radiation in medical imaging. Okay, it is because ionizing radiation has the energy to remove electrons from the atoms and also molecules. So it may have the possibility of the cells to become died and also cancerous. Thus, radiation protection is very important in medical imaging as it refers to the technique to protect individuals from the effects of ionizing radiation. Okay, however, we have multiple guidelines applied to radiographer, but then it could not guarantee on the adherence from the radiographer's side. Okay, so I'm proposing that infusing the element of Islamic personality among Muslim radiographers could be an alternative to ensure the consistency in radiation protection adherence. Okay, next for the the objective. The first one is to explore the Islamic personality elements from Al-Ghazali's view. The second one is to discuss the integration of Islamic personality elements in radiation protection practice among Muslim radiographers. Okay, so in medical imaging, we apply the concept of radiation protection. There are three principles in radiation protection. The first one, justification. To ensure that every radiological examination done, the benefit is outweighed from the risk. The second, optimization, to ensure we, the radiographer, give minimum dose to the patient without suffering the image quality. And the third one is to apply individual dose limitation. Okay, and the radiation protection culture refers to the act of combining the scientific and also the social dimensions in radiation protection practice. Because there are four ethical values which are well agreed with the concept of radiation protection principle. Because the first one, beneficent and maleficent, which is to do more good than harm. Prudence, to ensure that we radiographers give the dose as low as reasonably achievable. Justice, which is not to give unnecessary radiation dose to the patient, and dignity, which is to treat the patient with respect. Okay, next, the compliance. Okay, even though we have many guidelines, but it cannot guarantee the adherence among radiographers because due to the lacking of punitive measures. Okay, even though radiographers do not comply to radiation protection, so there are lacking of punitive measures in the field. And satisfactory compliance occur both in the Islamic and non-Islamic country among radiographers, thus reinforcing the safety initiative through the appreciation of Islamic worldview that can be done among Muslim radiographers.
Go to the next, which is the methodology. Okay, so this is the methodology used is a qualitative literature review, which use content analysis and also related documents. The first literature analysis was conducted, and then the review elaborated according to the themes, and then the descriptive explanations of the investigated elements are provided. Okay, next, okay, the finding. Okay, this is the personality from Al-Ghazali's view. Okay, Al-Ghazali is an Islamic scholar. Personality is defined as the unity between the actions of the soul, which is internal, and also the bodily behaviors. Okay, there are 4 aspects of personality, which are the heart, spirit, nafs. Nafs is the soul, the reality of the man himself. There are 3 types of nafs according to Al-Ghazali. Okay, nafs al-mutmainnah, which is the state of calm. Nafs lawamah, the states of remorse, and also nafs al-amara, which is in the directions of evil. Okay, next, the 4 aspect is the akal, which is the ability to know something. Okay, if it is to be compared between the Western theories of Islam of personality with the Al-Ghazali theory of Islamic personality, okay, we can say that the theory of psychoanalysis, behaviorism, and also humanistic emphasize on the external, which is the relationship between the man and also the fellow mankind. Okay, but then Al-Ghazali further emphasize on the relationship between a man and also the fellow mankind, and also a man with the with his God. Okay, next, developing good personality can be done through self-purification, which is to struggling against bad behavior, and also through training to perform a good deeds. Okay, next. Okay, the personalizing Islamic personality in radiation protection practice. Okay, as a Muslim radiographer, okay, this is applicable to Muslim radiographer. Muslim radiographer should aware that he is sent as vicegerents on earth to enjoy the good and forbid the bad. And as a vicegerent on earth, Muslim radiographer should not do destruction on earth. Thus, okay, Muslim radiographer should be accountable for radiation protection program, which is to do examination which give benefit to the patient and do not give extra radiation dose to the patient as it is harmful to the patient. Okay, and then it is also, we have to remind the radiographer constantly that everything that radiographers do in terms of benefit is a good deeds that will be rewarded in the hereafter, and any harm to the patient is a bad deeds. Okay, thus, okay, as a Muslim, there is no separation between religious and professional life. So the applying Islamic personality is the bridging, okay, between the professional life as a radiographer and also the religious life as a Muslim. Okay, next, okay, this is this table shows 6 Islamic personality tests and measure which have been developed by the previous researchers. Okay, and these Islamic personality tests are applicable in various fields and disciplines and cater different issues such as the mental health research, psychological stress, self-improvement, self-introspection, but then none of this cater the issue of radiation protections in medical imaging. Thus, it is very important the need to develop a specific instrument in Islamic personality as applicable in radiation protection practice among radiographers. Thus, adapting and adopting these Islamic personality measures could be helpful in developing a new instrument. Okay, next, for the conclusion. Okay, the concept of Islamic personality from Al-Ghazali's view is applicable to be applied in radiation protection practice among Muslim radiographers. So, Islamic personality in radiation protection helps to fulfill the obligations of Muslim towards his religion, and there is a need to develop Islamic personality instrument in radiation protection practice among Muslim radiographer. And for the last, okay, this effort could be helpful in building a better perspective and practice of Islamization in medical imaging field. Okay, these are my reference. With that, thank you very much.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Just looking for my reference here. Excellent. Thank you. As always, let's start. Any questions from the floor?
Yeah, Doctor.
Hi.
Yeah, there is a question here, Doctor.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, Assalamualaikum. My question is there a very critical issue on radiation, Muslims, That's my question.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Actually, from the from the literature review, it shows that even though nowadays, with the advancements of technology, but the issue of non-compliance is still happens here. Okay, the study conducted by various researchers in India, in Malaysia, in Egypt, in Italy. So it shows that still the non-compliance issue in radiation protection still happens because the amounts of procedure is increasing every year. Okay, because we have advancements of technology, so it is very important to ensure that radiographers follow the radiation protection practice. Okay, it is very significant issue actually. Because due to the increasing amounts of cases in medical imaging. Okay, for Muslim, okay, because I show here, okay, these are the researchers from a non-Muslim country, and this one is researchers from Muslim country. Okay, so because this due to the lack of punitive measure, as I said before, even though we have multiple guidelines, but this guideline could not guarantee the adherence from the radiographer's part. Okay, this is because due to the lack of punitive measures. Okay, it depends on the institution. So, in an established institution, it will put punitive measure, but the other institution, maybe they just let the radiographers do whatever they want to do. Okay, so this is not good for patient, especially, and for Muslim, because we know that if we give extra radiation dose to the patient, okay, patient maybe they don't aware because of the extra radiation. Like we repeat examination because of the lacking of the skill from the radiographer. So the examination have to be repeated. So repeat examination because of the lack of skill from the radiographers will introduce extra radiation dose to the patient. Okay, it is unethical actually. So as a radiographer, okay, they have to perform and then they have to be in mind that if they give extra radiation dose to the patient, okay, they introduce harmful effect to the patient. Okay, as a Muslim, we can see that it is a sinful act actually. So for my study, I want to impose that if you give unnecessary radiation, you commit sin, like that. For the understanding from the view of a Muslim radiographer. So I hope I answer the question, Doctor.
I just wonder, the non-compliance reasons.
Okay, the
non-compliance reasons in Malaysian setting, in your study.
okay. Okay, in Malaysia, for now, as for my in my knowledge, there is no study on the non-compliance among radiographers in Malaysia. But then outside, okay, one of the reason because radiographer find that it will take longer time to finish the examination if radiographer has to follow putting the shielding on the patient and then to properly do the collimation. So they find that it will take longer time to finish a procedure, and the patients, many patients are waiting outside, so they have to do it quickly.
Okay, look like the issue is not due to either you are Islam or not Islam.
Yeah.
It is more or less toward the human attitude.
Yeah.
Or human behavior.
Yes.
But you study this behavior on Islam.
Yeah, I propose in terms of punitive measure, because we are lacking of punitive measure. So as a Muslim could put a punitive measure by looking at it is a sinful act if you do like this.
I still don't get it, but I see the issue. Maybe you are taking Islam cooperation.
Yeah.
But measuring the general behavior.
Yeah.
Overall, general behavior that make the non-compliance in Islam community.
The main issue is because the lack of punitive measure to the issue of non-compliance. Because again,
that is the point we will raise up. Why there are so many non-compliance among Islam, Christian or whoever community. Due to the, they have to take up issue, they have to take officer on due to the instrument, it's too messy for them to follow instructions or auditing or the behavior issue or the, what are the issues that make it non-compliant that you have to really, stress out.
Okay, so as I can found one of the main issue is because they find it they take more time to finish the examination.
Why is it only Muslim community that you think that sin is not other communities?
Actually, this happens both in Islam among Muslim and non-Muslim radiographers. Okay, but then I found that a Muslim actually because as a Muslim we regard work as an ibadah. So jadi Muslim should not do sinful act. Okay, in his professional life as Muslim radiographer, so Muslim should be aware that if he or she does not comply to the radiation protection, he is committing a sinful act from his religion view, because it is in line with the concept of maqasid syariah, which is to protect the life of the Muslim.
Okay, I'm going to have to wrap it up there, guys. We're running out of time. Thank you so much for the question. That was great, and thank you for the presentation. That was really good. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Yako.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for Chairperson Dr. David Robert Osborne. Okay, today I would like to share about my topic is about the acceptance of cryptocurrency for Zakat transactions. Expert views on its issues readiness. Zakat is one of the yes, it's a payment. It's a compulsory for Muslim from their income to give to the government. I mean the state government and the poor person. All right, this is only the expert view. So from the expert view, we explore the theme from the expert. Okay, for the background, for Muslim, Islam is a way of life, and Malaysia accept Islam as in their constitution, in their law, in the Perkara 3, and all matters of the life, the world guided by Allah. Same in the financial issues. And the global point of view, cryptocurrency are ready as an alternative to replace fiat currencies. Now, we use the traditional is a fiat currency, but in technology of the blockchain, they create the cryptocurrency such as a Bitcoin to replace the fiat currency. So my study is to explore what is the readiness, what is the theme from the expert, what is for the cryptocurrency for Zakat transaction. Okay, from the literature, the question of low cryptocurrency transaction has been question marked among the public, because you know the revolution industry 4.0 and the e-wallet and many things now we use the technology. For Islam, yes, in Malaysia, the bank constitution, I mean the federal bank, has already issued the official statement and found the team using the Atlas TI to explore. So there are 5 themes. First is knowledge. Second is security management. Cryptocurrency. There are 5 themes that we should, should ready before we accept the cryptocurrency. Okay, we know the technology acceptance, the policy acceptance. This is the Islamic view for financial, for cryptocurrency acceptance. There are 5 themes, right? So Okay, for yes, discussion. This is not ready. It's not ready to use that cryptocurrency to replace fiat currency due to regulatory problem. And from that, we from the team, okay, that currency. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jakob. Just for the guys who are running the technic stuff here, we keep losing. A lot of the presentation is dropping out on us, so I missed quite a lot of your presentation. But I have your presentation in front of me. So while I'm asking questions, perhaps the tech people in UITM can take a look at the feed, please. Right. First of all, any questions from the floor before I have my questions? Jolly good. My question was that in your discussion, you point out that Malaysia is not ready to use to replace fiat currencies due to regulatory problems, which is a restatement. It's a restatement of Bank Negara's position, which you gave on page 5. So does that mean that your research did not uncover any other reasons?
One day later, Malaysia changed the policy. So it's illegal. So what is the we are must ready before the policy is changed? That is my research and my team research. So there are 5 teams from expert view, technology, the security, the economy, improvement, and technology. Yes, knowledge is important. If you don't know how we want to accept the cryptocurrency, right? Okay. Right. Hello, doctor. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Sorry, because I'm losing so much of the feed here. The other question I had, which you may have covered in the presentation, what was the position of the Islamic finance expert? I'm interested to know what his point of view was, not from a regulatory point of view so much as from a religious point of view.
Okay. From the expert, they have 2. They have economy expert and Islamic finance expert. I found they from national and international. Some of them are practitioner in the bank. Some of them is analysis in university. Some of them is professor in the university, and some of them make well known in Malaysia.
Yeah, but I was particularly interested in what the Islamic finance expert, you list him on your on the methodology. You said there was an expert in Islamic finance.
Yeah, I have the list.
Yeah. So my question is, what was his opinion compared to, say, somebody from the government or somebody who's coming at it from a non-religious perspective?
Yes. This may be the later. The next research maybe.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe. Thank you, doctor.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's great. And if there's no other questions from the floor, that's great. Thank you, Dr. Jakob. Thank you, and I'm sorry for the technical problems there.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Cool. So we're now looking for Dr. Rahim. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm here, Dr. David.
Okay, yeah. Please, by the way, can everybody forgive me if I get your names wrong? I'm struggling a little bit with the names here.
All right.
So, Craig, you got the floor. I'll give you a heads up when we've got 3 minutes left. So, take it away.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. David. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon. My name is Memianti Haji Abdul Rahim, and our research title is on the systematic review on company strategies to cope with COVID-19 pandemic or COVID-19 crisis. Okay, our team member Nurul Atira, Kuratu Aini, and Dennis from three of us from Universiti Teknologi MARA, while the latter part of the team member, Dennis, come from Universiti Teknologi Yogyakarta, Indonesia. All right. Okay, this is the introduction for the paper. Yeah, as everybody aware that the emergence of COVID-19 pandemic has actually impacted our business very bad. Yeah, that's why I'm talking about the disclosure of the business due to the lockdown. Yeah, the instruction by the government to close the business in total means that business suffer loss. Yeah, then this actually inspire us as a researchers, as the academic, to come up with the observations on the previous studies on how this big company cope with the COVID-19 pandemic. That's why in our slide there is no systematic, no literature review. The most research is actually the reviewing literature review based on the system. This is the aim of the team from the previous 2021. We just merely focusing on the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, if you hear, because you have loads this, yeah, then we go directly to, after that, when we have the identification via the keywords, we go to the screening process. And talking about screening process, we actually looking into the inclusion and the exclusion of the criteria that all the keyword must be fit in, or what are the articles that have said something on that particular keyword. Yeah, then latter part is on the eligibility. Yeah, as a researcher, we have abundant of article research at the early stage. We have like almost almost 1,000. Yeah, then after the screening process, we go up to 512 articles, and after that we go for 32 articles to be sent to the expert to say that this is article that are relevant to you as a team to review the articles, to come up with the strategies that be focused by the company to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic. So we end with only 15 articles out of 32 articles given to the expert. All right. Okay, so this is just to get an idea how we come up with the keywords from the database. Yeah, we search in the Scopus and AMER, and even for the screening process, we have the criteria. Yeah, I'm talking about the inclusion and the exclusions. Mean that our searching is just based on the article publication. Yeah, there is no conference paper, there is no working paper, there is no book or chapter in book. Okay, yeah? And the timeline is within 2020 to 2021, because that is the time that the COVID-19 hit. Yeah, worldwide on December 2019. So means that we observe that all the researchers, academics are so keen to see how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the business. Yeah, then the scope, the language, of course, we are using. We only take article only in English, and the scope of studies on the business management, accounting, and social science. Yeah, so that is the inclusions for the paper, and of course you can see what are the exclusion criteria that we have to exclude from the article selections. All right, so this is the finding. Yeah, after the eligibility, experts send us 15 articles, and we have to do the data abstraction analysis. As a researcher, from the 15 articles, we have to map it and to see how many teams, how many main teams, and how many sub-teams, yeah, can be derived from the article. We can see here we have economics, legal, ethicals, and philanthropic as a main team, 4 main team, and 7 sub-team. Means that under economic, we have digitalization and ICT. Second sub-team for economic is supply chain. And the third one is office reconfigurations. However, for legal, we only have 1 sub-team for the government regulations. Ethical, modified policy. And philanthropic, we have 2 sub-team, which is charity and from the first column. That is all the articles that we get from the researchers in 2020 up to 2021. Yeah. Okay. So just a further elaboration on the findings. Yeah. I'm talking company facing COVID-19 pandemic, and the world are of course we are in a very short condition that business has to closed and everything. So from the systematic literature review, they are focusing on digitalization and ICR. And I think everybody agreed on this matter because we have to work from home and all the technology involved in our working style and everything. So even they also highlighted on the supply chain, yeah, whereas we're talking about the working of the supplier is also to the COVID-19 pandemic effect. And talking about office.
Yes, yeah.
You're all right. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm still having only 2 slides after this.
Sure.
Okay, office reconfigurations means that employee will be working from home and company has to adjust this matter. Yeah, government regulation, of course. I think from time to time during the pandemic, government every country is coming out with a SOP and everything. Yeah. So and even when talking about modified policy, yeah, I'm talking about company doing things with the new norms. Yeah, so this is the thing that happened in the company, and we have the philanthropic action on the charity and production support. Yeah, so what we discussed from our opinion after reading all the 15 articles with the main team and sub team, yeah, companies should focus on those 7 areas. However, those 7 areas must be able to align with the current present scenario of the pandemic. Means that, yeah, at that particular time, people are still thinking of how long this pandemic can be ended. So that is the issue. However, we would like to conclude our research by saying that even though they have to change the strategy accordingly to the 7 sub-themes that have been highlighted by the previous researchers in 15 articles, but again and again, that those strategy must be able to sustain their business in the long run. That's all. Thank you, Dr. David.
That's perfect timing. Thank you so much, Dr. Rahim. Great. First off, any questions from the floor? I have a couple, but give the floor a chance first.
Okay, can I ask question?
Yeah,
Hi,
please.
Dr. Mimi and Dr. David. Okay, while doing this systematic literature review, what are the limitations of this kind of research?
Okay, thank you. I think Madam Saida, yeah, thank you so much, Madam Saida. When talking about doing reviewing articles, and I would say this literature review method will be more disadvantaged on the time frame, because when talking about the research focusing COVID-19 pandemic means that I can't take article beyond 2020. Means that before that, there is no paper writing on COVID-19 pandemic, perhaps due to only disease, but not on the empirical or whatever research on the impact of COVID-19 on the company. So that is the reason why our team aspire to see how academic or researcher are very keen to know what is actually the actual impact to the business, and the company come up with certain strategy to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you so much.
I have a similar question actually, Doctor, which is in terms of limitation, is that the research seems to treat all businesses equally. The reality is some businesses suffered in the pandemic, whereas other businesses actually flourished. Restaurants particularly suffered, and for example, supermarkets certainly in Hong Kong benefited from it. So how did your research allow for that condition?
Okay, thank you, Dr. David. Of course, I think everybody aware that face mask industry, sanitizer industry, all those medical industry will be a very prosper, healthy business way. But of course, because my concern is only on tackling, what are the strategies that impacted to the business, that of course we are not checking on the business that operating on the issues. So means that I'm not going for checking for example, hospitality, for example, on the medical. So it could be a very good title for the next systematic literature review, how all those how all the industry, especially associated with the SOP procedure, may flourish in the pandemic and endemic. Dr. David, thank you. You give me some idea to do that.
Okay, good.
so much.
Okay, let me ask you one more. I'm just seeing if anybody else has got a question. I have just one more quick one. Again, given basic questions, why did you focus only on a literature review? I would have thought this is an excellent topic to actually go out and get first-hand data, you know, straight from the operators and the businesses. So why did you choose to just do the literature and not the face-to-face interviews?
Okay, Dr. David, thank you so much. Actually, we have grant to proceed with the research based on the empirical data. So this is actually the initial stage of the research to ensure that we don't lose with any important article to dig as a gaps in the research. So it's actually I think as an initial stage for us to ensure that, of course, if you can see, Dr. David, even Malaysia are not in the pipeline of 2020 and 2021 in doing this research. Means that perhaps 2023 is our publication on this particular issue. So thank you, Dr. David. That will be another step, because this is some sort like our starting point to do empirical studies. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Could you hear me okay?
Yes, can.
Okay, good. So up to it's all yours.
You can see my slide?
I can, yes.
Okay. Can I start?
Please do.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Dr. David, and Assalamualaikum. Good afternoon to all of you. My name is Nuraida binti Abu Hassan. Today, I would like to start an introduction about this topic. Right, when we talk about the business resilience, right, it is basically the ability of the companies to quickly adapt, right, with the uncertainty environment. Right, at the same time, they're able to maintain their business operation. Right, why we use this SME? Because this SME is acknowledged as the dominant factor, right, for the country economic development. Okay. However, even though the SME is the main economic contributor for the country, it also vulnerable in terms of for the uncertainty, means they still have difficulties to survive, especially during the pandemic situation. It's quite similar with the previous topic, right, Dr. Mimi Yanti. But I find out the differences in terms of the theme, right, that will be discussed after this, right? So basically, when the SME have difficulties, the only things that they can think is whether to fight or to flight, right, during this pandemic. So due to that, right, so we come up with a systematic literature review. This is basically the preliminary studies, right, to determine the best strategy. Okay, we call it as the best strategies, business resilience strategy for the firm to maintain their performance and sustain in the business, right? So basically, we use the same commonly used in the SLR, which is called as Prisma. Right, Prisma is basically used to retrieve, right, the article related with the SMEs and business strategies, and then we have the advantage in terms of the exclusion and inclusion criteria, and we use the two main journal database for the sake of these studies. We use Scopus and Web of Science. Okay, from that we use these process review protocol by Holiday. We can see here we have sub-processed the process of identification, screening, and eligibility. We downloaded almost 1,000 plus articles, and then we do screening. And then in the process of eligibility, it's a process manually. The team sit together and selected the best quality article and sent to expert to review the article, and we come up with the team, right? So from that, we come up with 3 sub-team, right, from the research, which is from 2020 to 2021, means during the pandemic situations, right? The team is first, the one of the business strategies framework is innovations, crisis management, and government initiative, right? So let's look at the innovations. Most of the author, right, talk about the innovation, or we call as digital transformation, or digital this we call dynamic capabilities, right? The ability of the SME to adapt with the technology to be part with the most profitable companies. From that, they can survive in the business during the pandemic. And number 2, we talk about the crisis management, right? We know that crisis management is part of is considered a dominant part for the survival of the SME. So the ability of the company to develop the comprehensive crisis management plan or risk management plan is also part of the factors to ensure the company can adapt with the uncertainty environment. And lastly, the SME need to get support from the government, financial support, advisory support, training and so forth. Right? So government initiative is part of the factors to ensure the ability of the SME to sustain their business operations, right? By having these effective policies, right? Especially during these MCO, we have a lot of scheme that is offered by the government to support the company SME business operations. Okay, from the discussion, right, in this research, basically we can look into the SLR discover the business model innovations, crisis management plan. Government support is considered as a factor that commonly debate in the article as business strategies performance in order to ensure the sustainability of the SME, right? This basically can help with the short-term or long-term resilience strategy for the company to face with the uncertainty. Here we'll look into the uncertainty in terms of the COVID-19 pandemic attack, right? And then the double trade, importantly, that be designing and by offering the effective policies, right? So as a conclusions, right, again, I emphasize from this research, we come up with the 3 sub-themes as our preliminary study, right, to be the factors to help the SMEs to sustain their business operation, which is a business model innovations, crisis management plan, and then we have the government initiative or government support, right, to help the SME to sustain the business operation. With that, I end my presentations.
Wow, that was a quick one. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cool. As always, throw it open to the floor. Do I have any questions from the floor? Please.
All right. How small firm can have digital transformation?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Saida Hamiza. Okay. When we talk about digital transformation, it is not only talk about digital. It's not talk about the technology wise, right? Digital can be anything that the company can use, right, in order to transform their business model. For example, we do have the SME can use other business solution that offered by other third agency. We have this workplace, we have a Google Workplace, we have the PayPal, and then we do have the they also can combine their existing strategies and also adapt with other strategies model, right? Having the data is also part of the technology, how they use the current data, their customer data, and try to provide the best service and try to offer the best product and service based on the data that the company have, right? Means use the data, right? By having the data to ensure the the company can meet the customer preferences. At the same time, they can maintain their revenue, say the supplier relationship, finding the right supplier relationship, diversification your business strategies, and this diversification is not in COVID-19 pandemic situation. In focus on our niche area, and from that we can get the revenue. Focus on the things that we can get the profits instead of we diversify the business or provide a lot of varieties to the customer in order to sustain. So in this we can see in COVID-19 business strategy is more on the short term, immediate short term, and provide the best solution to the business to sustain, compared to the long strategies where we're looking into the future-oriented business and so forth.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
I pause while I see if anybody else is popping in with a question before I ask my next one. No, okay. Yeah, one of the question is that when in conclusion you talk about crisis management as being necessary to sustain the business. But we know that the pandemic could be considered a crisis, and therefore it goes without saying that crisis management is necessary. So therefore my question is, with crisis management, what specific strategies are involved in this particular crisis management that you identified?
Yes, all right. The crisis management is when we talk about the crisis, right, and the risk management is two things, but it's considered crisis is immediate action that the company must have with the current expertise that they have, the current resources, the current resources that company have, they need to react to the crisis. The crisis management here, the company must use their current what we call it, their existing SKA, their existing asset, knowledge, the expertise, right, to transform these challenges to become these new opportunities. So from the differ with risk management is something that you already anticipate and you have planned on it. Crisis management, immediately you need to respond to it by using their immediate solution. For example, we can see here, the company must use their data, the data that the company have, right, the capital that company have in order to react with this uncertainty event, right? So crisis management is basically how the company use their existing asset, their employees, their capital, their technology, the data with this environmental uncertainty or with this pandemic situation.
Isn't that the same as simply saying that in the crisis, the companies go way out of it? It's not actually providing a framework or a solution in itself. It's saying,
yes. Instead of, if we refer to the crisis management plan, they need to find out the ways, or whether they need to avoid the risk from happen. In this time, we cannot avoid. We need to accept the risk, right? At the same time, by accepting the risk, we must look into our current what we call this, your dynamic capabilities to transform this, how the ability of the company by using their
6 to 700 of articles, and we filtered through. We removed the duplicated articles and making it for 1.5. And lastly, we after excluding the excluded criteria, and those that are not eligible to be included in our study, so we we get about 50 articles left, for review. This is the most related to our study. So we are using Prisma, preferred reporting items for systematic reviews and meta-analysis. And we use 3 main sources, which are Scopus, Web of Science, and Google Scholar. And this is our search string. Basically, the keywords used in the search string focus on 3 main keywords, which are women entrepreneurs, sustainability development, and also sustainable development, and also strategy. And the inclusion and exclusion criteria are, those articles between year 2010 to 2020. Why do we include these years? Because this topic is about challenging environment. It is not focusing solely for pandemic situation, but also other challenging environment. As we know, during 2010 to 2020, there were many other challenging environment in the market, such as the economic crisis during the 2017, and others. So that's why we include the period, or the timeline is 10 years. And of course, the language that we use is we only focus on English and exclude non-English. And focus on indexed journal, and non-indexed journal were excluded. And also in those articles that are indexed under the social science citation. So from our literature review, we found systematic literature review. We found these 3 main themes as main strategies used by women entrepreneurs to sustain their business during the challenging environment, which are financial aspects, networking, and personal development. And under financial aspects, there are 2 sub-themes, which are financial capital and financial institution or government. 2 other sub-themes, which are social networking and use of social media and personal development, self-motivation. Okay, so this is findings on our systematic literature review. We found women strategy, of course, the important thing is financial capital. In the pandemic situation, okay, because they have sufficient capital in their hands, be it in the form of cash, assets. Okay, so this was seen as main strategy used by women to sustain in their business. Okay, on top of that, they also look for other sources of income like financial or government aid. Okay, this during the challenging environment also, there were a lot of aids by the government, like for in Malaysia ourselves, we have the Prihatin stimulus funding. Okay, looking at other countries, they did provide other financial or government aid like those in Kenya, in Africa, and other countries. Okay, the other strategy used by women entrepreneurs during this challenging environment also, they make use of their, or they utilize their social networks, okay, to do business, okay. The skill that they have in building network, okay, that makes them be able to sustain their business. They can have access to database, okay, for them to sustain their business. Okay, and we also found that Indonesian women entrepreneurs practice good social networking skill, and they that make them able to sustain during the challenging environment. Okay, and the use of social media or digitalization was also one of the strategy used by women entrepreneurs to survive during this challenging environment. Okay, so most of these entrepreneurs, they have moved from offline business to digitalization, and that makes them more successful because they can access to more markets throughout the world. Okay, and the other strategy used is also get more education and training to enhance their knowledge in business. Okay, and this is also either they go for themselves, they look for themselves, okay, or they participate or engage in the education and training for government, okay, for entrepreneurs. Okay, so those who succeed in this challenging environment, okay, they were found to have they were found to equip with sufficient education and training to survive in this business. Okay, and on top of that, they also have high self-motivation. Okay, that is also their strategy, okay, to sustain, okay, in which we can see Indonesian women, they tend to have self-determination and optimism that makes them able to sustain, okay, during this challenging environment. So from this systematic literature review, we found that women entrepreneurs need to have enough capital and adequate savings, or otherwise they can look for other sources to fund them, like financial aid or government grants. Okay, they need to also have good social networking skills. Okay, start digitalizing their offline business to online. Okay, and have self-driven or strong self-motivation, and enhance their knowledge and skills with proper education and training in business. These strategies can help them to sustain in the changing business environment. Okay, so our conclusion is after doing this study, systematic literature review, we found that these three main strategies, the three important strategies that must be done by must be taken by women entrepreneurs, which are they need to sufficient, okay, financial, good networking, be it offline network, online networking, and they have to have good personal development. Okay, that is our discovery for this
Thank
systematic.
you. Didn't give you a heads up because your timekeeping was excellent. Thank you. Okay, as always, questions from the floor before I begin?
Can I ask Dr. Devi?
Please, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, Madam Saida, just wonder, yeah, how can we be a support system to the women business owner to our life, in our life, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mimi. I'm sure around us we have our friends or our our friends or anyone around us who are women entrepreneurs. Okay, so what can we do to support them? Even though we can support in terms of financial, we can be of a support in any in other forms like emotional support. Okay, because women entrepreneurs they tend to have this kind of mixed emotions of stress, anxiety, and loneliness. So we can provide them with the emotional support, be at their back and be her shoulder to cry on. Okay, and we can also provide like instrumental support, like taking care of their immediate needs. Even the small stepping out to grab her lunch is also one of the instrumental support that they may need. Okay, we can also provide them with the informational support that they need. Maybe they need information like financial assistance. Is there any opportunity in the environment that they missed? Okay, and accountability support, helping them to push forward and find their success. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Very
good. Thank you. Right, nice silence. Good, I get a shot. The obvious question for me is, first of all, are you suggesting, therefore, that women entrepreneurs require a different strategy to men entrepreneurs?
Women entrepreneurs, they require different strategy than men. Basically, it's actually equal strategy. Okay, men and women may have the same strategy, but women may need more of like more of other supports, yeah, like emotions, because that's the nature of women. They may tend to drag the emotions during the business. Okay, that's why they need more support in terms of the emotions, informations. Okay, and but the strategies like financial networking and may be the same, okay, with men, but in terms of personal development, it may women may need to be more strong in this aspect.
Okay. What do you think are the greatest challenges that face a woman entrepreneur that don't exist for men?
Most challenge?
Yes, which only apply to women and don't apply to men. What do you think are the greatest challenges?
Okay, the greatest challenges for women, of course, the personal development. Okay, the emotions, because men we know have different personality than men. Okay, and they may have a mix of emotions. Okay, unstable sometimes. So that's why they need that is the biggest challenge for women. Okay, because we know when we do business, there will be different challenges that we may not they may never face before, and that if they can they can control their emotions, that or they can be self-driven, they may not be able to succeed.
Okay. One last question, because the research you've done is obviously focusing on the qualities that they need to succeed. Did you touch on during the research? Did you look at what were the factors of failure? Okay, so my question would be, what do you think is the greatest contributor to failure, not to success?
Okay, greatest contributors to failures. Maybe because okay, especially for women entrepreneurs who already have families, okay, their time management is also can also be their greatest failure, because they need to juggle between the role of a mother and also the role as a business owner or entrepreneur. That is the greatest challenge. Okay, because especially if they don't have assistant with them, sometimes they will have to drag their they will have to juggle the responsibilities between mother and entrepreneurs.
Right. Okay. Cool. Okay, that was great. Thank you. Any more questions from the floor? No. Okay. Thank you so much. Great presentation. See you next conference. Thank you. Right. So next up, Dr. Muhammad Azwan Suleiman.
Hello, Mr. Chairman.
Hi. How are
Hello,
you?
Dr. David. How are you? I'm fine. Okay. I will share my.
Great. Are you ready to go?
Right.
Are you good to go?
Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah.
Okay, cool. The floor is yours. I'll let you know when you've got 3 minutes left, just to let you know.
Okay, we'll wait for a while. Okay. Hello, everyone. And Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good evening for everyone. I'm Muhammad Azwan Sulaiman. I'm from the Faculty of Architecture, Planning and Surveying, Universiti Teknologi MARA. And then I'm with my team, the four persons, Nona Dirah Akmal Mokhtar, Nuruna Dia Zaino, and the one from the Indonesia, Emilia Hasbullah from the Faculty of Economy, University of Jakarta, Indonesia. So my topic today is the solution strategies framework for the missing person property in Malaysia. Okay, so this is of the outcome for my presentations. Okay, so my research background actually from the concept, the missing person in Malaysia or in the Islamic law is called the al-mafqud. Okay. So the missing person, the concept actually the person cannot trace from by the police or by law. Okay. So the issues, the missing person properties right now until the 2021 estimated to reach R1 billion. Okay. As we know, the latest estimation of the property value of the missing person is about almost 100 billion. Okay, so of course the issue have a negatively impact for the heirs, religion, countries, and the society. So the action to be taken is that the approach need to be recognized to plan and manage this asset. Okay, so the research aim actually to define the solution strategic framework for the missing person properties in Malaysia. Okay. So this is a literature review. Okay, the definition of al-mafqud. Okay, al-mafqud from the Arabic words, the means of the missing person. Okay, the lost in a place for the extended period. Maybe we don't know the period without any news. No one knows about him or hers. So we knows the missing person either stay alive or already passed away. Okay. Okay, we refer to the precision of the death. But according to the Malaysian law, as we know, the Malaysian law have the separation of power. Okay, according to the civil law, okay, for a missing person to declare a presumption of death, we need to waiting for the 7 years. Okay, according to the Evidence Act 1915, and then according to the Sharia law. Except the Terengganu, we need to waiting for 4 years. Okay, so but in the civil law and the Sharia law is themselves have conflict. Okay, because such as the civil law, after the 7 years, it's not automatically we can declare the person of missing has already passed away. Okay, because after the 7 years, we need to go to High Court and made application from the heirs to declare the missing person have passed away. But if not have enough evidence or the insufficient evidence, the court, the High Court cannot declare the missing person as the already passed away. Okay. For the Sharia law, the 4 years, okay, the Sharia law actually just for the family laws only, because I give you an example. The missing person is the husband, okay. So his wife, after 4 years, she can go to the Sharia court to dissolve of their marriage, okay, but not for the divide the property on the other debts lah, because after the 4 years, she need to wait. She need to follow the civil law. I mean that mean then wait to the 7 years, okay. So the management of the mafkuk property, the property cannot be distributed until the here or denominated until the this confirmation atau on the declaration of date carried out by the court. Okay. So the methodologies for the research, we use the qualitative approach. We use the semi-structured interview. The interview has been the responsible the authorities such as the practitioner in the civil law, practitioner in the Sharia law, and then also the authorities such as the mining department and although the what you call it, the land office and district office department. Okay. So the fundamental is about the social behavior in the device of the community. So in the finding and the discussion, we have the 3 pillars of the solution. First one is about the legislative. Okay. Maybe for solution, need to choose only one period, which is either 4 or the 7 years. Which is, I mean, the one of that need to follow either the Sharia law or the civil law. Okay. The second one is the need to the special committee. Okay. The special committee is very important because we are known once you look at about the religion issues. Okay. Religion issue is the state matters. In the Malaysian law is the about Islam under the state ruler. So the special committee must be appointed by the ruler council to represent the state to set up the agencies to solve of these issues. Okay. The third one is about the education and awareness. Okay. Awareness is very important for the community because almost the issue in our studies about the awareness, especially in the about the legal issues and about the solution of the property, because we are known because any property if not solved by their own owners or landlord, the property cannot be solved themselves. So the awareness and education among the community and the hearers is very important. Okay. So also the education is about the research, about the focus of the agency and the legal practitioner themselves, because some of the legal practitioner they are known, they are not aware about this issue because it's about the mafkuk property is very rarely known in our countries. Okay. The third one is about the research by the Higher Education Institute. Okay, need more research about to find the solution, the strong solutions, such as from the legal educations, from the property, from the land administrative and the other Sharia law to solve this problem strongly. Okay. So the for conclusion is mafkuk property can be utilized for the society, especially for the development, the poor, education, the economic. The government, the economic, the other stakeholders should be played a significant role and draft a special law on the mafkuk property management. Okay, that's all from me. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed. Thank you. As always, questions from the floor. Do I have a question from the floor? No. Okay. Let me go in. I'm struggling a little bit here, Doctor. I'm looking at your findings and discussion, and basically, you're saying I'm comparing your findings with the situation as it exists at the moment. So at the moment, you have two time frames. You have a civil one and you have a Sharia time frame. So in your findings, you're saying we pick one of those. I can understand that. Your next question, I'll skip to the end. You talk about education and awareness. That's a given. I understand that. That's fine. But it seems to me that the only thing you're changing is you're setting up a special committee. And that's the difference between your proposal and what exists at the moment. But there's nothing in your special committee that gives it any guidance for making a decision that the current people don't have.
Okay, actually the special community, because the Alma property is Malaysian ground, the land and the religion is from the state matter. It's a very sensitive issue actually. We're talking about that because each states in the Malaysian, the 14 states in the Malaysian have their own regulations about the property, and then have their own regulation about the Sharia. As the Malaysian, we know the Malaysian now we are talking about the legal about the land matters. We have different issue. We have different legal enactments to solve the property. Some states have to solve the issues. Some states very toughly to solve the issues. For example, like I mentioned that Terengganu state use the 7 years. Either the other state use the 4 years only for using the Sharia law. So it's very complicated because we discussed with the special we are a practitioner. After that, we need to refer the ruler councils. Ruler councils mean all the sultans of the king in the each state to make decisions in the special rulers council. So it's very tough. But I think they have they have chance to solve the problem. Although it will look very tightly to solve to set up the committee.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Okay, I got one other question which relates to your methodology. I'm curious as to why you chose grounded theory as the method, which is about generating a theory rather than developing a solution.
Or the theory, the previous slide, actually my previous slide to use my previous research. Actually, we have for this topic, we use the semi-structured interview only. My previous slide actually have the grounded theory from my previous slide. Okay, I think that's my mistake.
Okay, sorry, I got the grounded theory one.
Yes,
that's a curious thing. Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay. That's great. Any other questions from the floor? No. Okay, that's great. Thank you so much, Dr. Mohammed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks. Cool. Right then. Okay, moving along. So, looking for Dr. Nazira Aziz.
Hi, I'm here.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you.
Sorry, we're running a little bit late, as you noticed. So, I hope we're not keeping you from your lunch. Right, take the floor. You've got the floor. I'll give you a heads up when you've got 3 minutes left.
Okay,
thank you.
Okay, hi, my name is Nazira Aziz, and today I will present a research titled Factors Affecting the Tax Compliance Among Small and Medium Enterprises Business Owners in Malaysia. And my research team consists of me, myself, Nazira Aziz, Syed Mahazif, Dr. Noor Azrina, and Dr. Santi from Indonesia. Okay, for the research background, income tax is one of the important sources of revenue and it is deemed to be essential funding for the government. And tax compliance refers to filing all required tax return in time and duly reporting their tax liabilities compliance to the law and regulation. In most countries, taxation has been well known for its flaws. If the taxation system cannot perform appropriately, a lot of parties will make use of the benefits to avoid paying tax, thus increasing the tax evasion rate. And this could lead to decrease in revenue of the government. So what is the issue? We can see a lot of numbers or increase in numbers of SME businesses in Malaysia. So it is actually a good thing because it can give a positive impact on the economy and growth of the country since more tax revenue can be collected from SMEs. However, the nature of SME business owners that operate without being registered with the tax office may make it more challenging to assess taxes on them. So tax avoidance and tax evasion may arise on when an individual or SME deliberately fails their tax responsibility. Identify the relationship between tax morale and tax compliance among SME. Number 2 is to identify the relationship between tax complexity and tax compliance. And number 3 is to identify the relationship between tax knowledge and tax compliance among SME. Okay, so we have past literature and classified it into 4 themes or 4 like area of study. Okay, so tax compliance is the dependent variable, and we have 3 independent variables here: tax morale, tax complexity, and tax knowledge. Okay, and this is the research framework. So we would like to see the influence of tax morale, tax complexity, and tax knowledge on tax compliance among SME business owners in Malaysia. And we have developed 3 hypotheses based on the review of past literature. So hypothesis number 1 is there is a relationship between tax morale and tax compliance among SME. Hypothesis number 2 is there is a relationship between tax complexity and tax compliance. And hypothesis number 3 is there is a relationship between tax knowledge and tax compliance among SME.
Sorry.
Okay.
Hello. Excuse me. Sorry, Miss. Madam. Okay. Professor David, Dr. David.
Yes.
Right now, we are about to have our lunch. It's because the cafe will be closed at 2:30 p.m. Right now it's 2 p.m. So the rest of us from room 1 will go to lunch, and we will come back here at 2:30. So after Miss Nazira have presented, then after 2:30, then the other 3 or 2 or 3 presenters will present after lunch.
There's one more after Dr. Nazira. There's one more. Okay, let's finish. Can we finish Dr. Nazira?
Yes, but the rest all have left for lunch.
Okay. Okay, fine. Well, we'll finish this one and then we'll come back at 2:30.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, Dr. Nazira, I apologize for that. It's you and me, kid. Let's do it.
So I will continue, yeah?
Yeah, please.
Okay. The research methodology. So we adopt a survey method and we have a distributed questionnaire using Google Form to our respondent. And as for the population and sample, population is as SMEs in Malaysia and we focus on SMEs in Klang Valley only, and we managed to collect 110 respondents from SME business owners in Klang Valley. For the measurement, we have adapt 38 items from these previous callers. 8 items measured tax compliance and 10 items each measure tax knowledge, tax complexity, and tax knowledge, tax complexity, and tax morale. Okay. So 38 items, yeah. All right. As for the analysis and result, okay, so I only show the descriptive and regression analysis on this slide. Okay, the descriptive analysis, we can see here, the mean for tax MARA is 3.6164, which is higher compared to the other two independent variables. So it shows that most of the respondents tend to agree with items in a tax morale, items measuring a tax morale. Okay, as for the regression analysis, this is the research model. Okay, 67.4% of the model or tax compliance can be influenced by these three factors, okay, tax morale, tax complexity, and tax knowledge, while the other 32.6% is explained by other factors. Okay, and we can see here in the table a significant p-value for tax morale and tax knowledge. So it shows that these two IV significantly influence tax compliance, while tax complexity is not significantly influence tax compliance. Okay, let us move on to findings and discussion. Through the hypothesis testing and result showed just now, it has been revealed that however, there is no significant relationship between tax complexity and tax compliance among SME. However, we believe that a less complicated tax system should have influenced the rate of tax compliance among SME business owners in Malaysia. This is according to past study by ISA 2014. He addressed that tax complexity significantly influenced tax compliance. As for the conclusion, we would like to recommend to IRBM to concentrate on all the three factors to promote tax compliance of SMEs in Malaysia, and they also may need to revisit the tactics to assess their success in terms of reaching all target respondents. And we also would like to suggest IRBM to have like a more business friendly tax ecosystem that could benefit the SMEs. That's all. Thank you.
Cool, thank you. I'm assuming there's nobody here except the me. Okay, I do have a couple of quick questions, and I'll let you go for your lunch. The immediate question on this type of research is how do you allow for honesty in response? Because when you're asking people about anything related to the way in which they make out tax returns, if they're not doing it correctly, there's a legal ramification, and therefore there's an automatic tendency for people to lie basically on the questionnaire. So did you factor that in? Did you have any way of allowing for that?
Actually, in the report or in our article, we also address on we know that this topic is quite sensitive, right? It is a sensitive research.
Yeah.
So we try our best when we approach the respondents that their responses it will remain as anonymous, and we encourage them to participate in the research. Actually, the second author of this paper, Mr. Said Fada, she has a business and he actually distribute this questionnaire to most of his business contacts.
So he's relying on their integrity as a friend. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. No, it's a difficult question, and I'm not really sure how to deal with it, but it's definitely something that does have to be considered in this type of research. I got another one too. I found very odd in the findings, and I think you highlighted it. The third point, you said there's no significant relation between complexity and compliance. I mean, my understanding of that is you're saying that if the complexity of the tax process, it can be very complex, but it doesn't interfere or influence the compliance of the people, which seems odd. It seems that there would be lack of compliance if it's more complex. And I tended to feel that that was your impression too. So why do you think you got that response?
One of the possible reason is perhaps most of the respondents, they have a very solid knowledge in tax. So for them, it is there is no issue with tax complexity.
Right, so it's basically they're business people, they understand the whole thing.
Yes.
That makes sense. Okay, cool. One last question and I'll let you off. And this is just me being a little bit pedantic, but in your conclusion recommendations, point number 2, you say IRBM may need to revisit the tactics. I just wanted to ask why you use the word may. This is a conclusion. Do they not have to do it? Or, I mean, could you not be more specific and say they need to revisit or they don't need to revisit? Why do you say may need to revisit?
Oh, okay. Actually, IRBM already have some, they already have conducted a few sharing session with the with the business owners. So for us, it is better for them to have like use other platform to reach their targets. For example, yes, they already have like they have the tax education section in their website. They also they also conducted sharing session through local radio station in Malaysia, but we would like to suggest IRBM to use their social media platform to reach their target respondents as well.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I just prefer, personally, I prefer if the terminology was a bit more positive, you know, that they should, or you could recommend an alternative tactic for them. A small point, it's just me being pedantic. That's cool. Thank you very much for the presentation. Go and get your lunch, and I'll see you in the next. I'll see you in the next conference. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I'll go and get my own lunch now too. Right. Oh, Dr. Dave is out. Who's presenting then? Oh, there's a face over there.
It's me. I'm representative for Dr. Harifa, and I'm co-author for this presentation.
Okay, and sorry, what's your name?
Rima binti Abdul Rahman.
Rima Abdul Rahman. Yeah. One of the joint authors. Yeah.
Okay.
As I said before, we're tight on time now. We're overlapping in somebody else's session. So 10 minutes. I'll give you a heads up after when you've got 2 minutes left. Okay.
Okay.
So the floor is yours. Go for it.
Okay. Can you see my slide?
No. Yes. Now I can.
Okay.
Ooh, clever.
Okay, hello and good evening to all the participants and to our chairperson, Dr. David. So today I would like to present the topic of improving the resilience of small-scale food entrepreneurs in the new norm through government assistance during COVID-19 pandemic. So we move to the next slide. As the introduction, I will explain a little bit for the background of SMEs. So the existence of small food enterprises in every country has an impact, particularly on the people and the development of the country. For example, in Hong Kong, the United States, Canada, and Singapore, these countries have the best country among the small food enterprises, because this country have offered the higher labor market to their people. And also we can see in Malaysia, the small food enterprises were operated by rural people among the B40 and also among the women. However, and these small food enterprises also give the best contribution to every country in economy. However, in early 2020, small-scale food enterprises around the world were hit hard by an outbreak known as a COVID-19 pandemic, which according to Mornaina 2020, there was a fear and concern among the local community because of this occurrence of the COVID-19 infection, which local community afraid and have worriness to go outside and follow the implementation of movement control orders that implementation by the government. And because of this implementation, the entrepreneurs was affected and faces the problem cash flow. And then because of this, because of the problem and the impact that entrepreneur faces, so the researcher was conclude the aim of the study has two objective, namely to identify the resilient practice by small-scale food entrepreneur to define their companies in era pandemic, and then secondly is to examine the assistance needed to increase resilience from government agencies. So the next slide is about the literature review. I will like to explain the definition of small enterprises and resilient. So you can see here that small and medium enterprises are defined differently in each country. But in Malaysia, we can see here in this diagram explain the definition of SME in Malaysia. But because this research is focused to the small category, so it can define by two aspects, namely from annual income and the number of employee, which is the small category can define which having range from 300,000 to 3 million with a total of less than 30 employees. And then the resilient, we can see that its ability to raise problem or the ability to dissolve in feeling of stress by Sarafino 1994. And then this resilient also we can know that as ability to respond to life hardship in a healthy, productive, and positive way. This resilience also not only enable a person to overcome or recover from the adversity, but also enable a person to improve aspect of his or her life to a better situation by the practice in their business. So we can see in Michael 2003 and Dian 2016 state that SME entrepreneur was using the various strategy to maintain their positive thinking. For example, they having strategy like gaining the more knowledge about the entrepreneurial. So they can positive thinking because having the strategy they practice in their business. So also and Rima et al. 2021 also state that exploration by researcher discovered that this pandemic crisis was a blessing to a small entrepreneur. This is because of this crisis of pandemic open more opportunity to more innovative and more having build their strength to be a better entrepreneur because of the impact and the challenges they faces in their business. And also the resilient also need to improve to increase more their resilience. So the human resource development has launched the portal, which this portal is assess the SME entrepreneur, which this portal have provide the conference, training, and knowledge to entrepreneurs to gain more knowledge. And also in this pandemic era, the government also provide several seminar for SME on how to market their product on e-commerce so that they have more skill on doing this digital marketing. This is because the pandemic has making the digital marketing as a priority to entrepreneur. And also the methodology, we can see here that the questionnaire use a 5-level Likert scale, which also supported by interview. And this research focused to 476 respondents, and the data was analyzed by descriptive analysis, namely frequency, percentage, and mean score value, and also analysis factor. And the sampling was used proportive and snowball samplings. So we move to the
3 minutes left.
Okay, so we move to the findings. Demography, we can see here that sex of female more higher than male, which recorded 392, and the age 21 to 30 years old is more higher. And then the ethnicity, Bugis, we can see here that more higher. And then material status of merit is more higher, and then education level for secondary is more higher than the other items. So the first objective were analyzed by the analysis factor, which this factor was construct the 3 factor, which the outcome has add skill factor, and secondly new strategy factor, and third is reduce expenses factor. By doing the analysis factor, the researcher was using also descriptive analysis to see which factor is more higher in each factor. The add skill factor, we can see here that be creative in business is more higher, and then the new strategy factor, we can see that making as cash on delivery strategy is more higher, and then reduce expenses factor, the recorded reduce the number of employees is more higher. And then, however, this resilience used by the entrepreneur also need to be improved or increase their resilience. So the respondents say that they need training to expand the market through the online, because this pandemic has make the online as the priority on online business, so they need this training to increase more their resilience. So also this supported by the officer that which this officer collaborate with Shopee. The Shopee is e-commerce, which they help entrepreneurs to market their product in Shopee, especially for Sabah products. And as the discussion, we can see that this show that entrepreneur is more creative, and then also entrepreneur using the cash on delivery, and also we can see that however we can see that respondent more need of the assistance from the government for online training, which this business online has become a priority of marketing product in new norm. So for the respondent who don't know how to access the digital marketing, they will increase their resilience by the assistance from government. Therefore, that with this assistance from government, such as training, can help the entrepreneur overcome the impact or challenges in their market. So, in conclusion, we can say that this study investigate how small-scale food enterprises keep their business running after being impacted by the outbreak of COVID-19. However, it's turned out that the existing resilient used by entrepreneurs still need government help to increase more their resilience. In general, this new norm have made online businesses a priority for entrepreneurs. Therefore, this entrepreneur require a government assistance in terms of training through online. So, this study serves as a guide for entrepreneur on how to sustain their business in the event of disaster that may disrupt business operation. So this study also may open the stakeholder eyes to the possibility of developing various strategies to help improve the resilience of small-scale food entrepreneur. Thank you. That's all from me.
It's great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good stuff. Any questions from the floor to begin with, please? Questions from the floor. Don't all shout at once. Okay, while the floor is thinking of questions, let me ask you a quick question. This came up on a couple of presentations this morning also, looking at how small businesses dealt with the issue of the COVID pandemic. In your case, you talk about food entrepreneurs, so I'm assuming you're talking about small restaurants and perhaps retailers of food products, stuff like that. But my question is that when you looked at the review, all the review refers to SMEs in general. It doesn't focus specifically on food entrepreneurs. So my question to you is there any problem with the data you collected? Because, for example, some businesses like restaurants suffered in the pandemic. Some businesses like supermarkets and obviously medical, they actually increased in the pandemic. So how did you differentiate between those two successful and unsuccessful businesses?
Okay, thank you for your question. So the businesses of restaurant is having the other strategy, and the other premises also having the other strategy, but mainly they're using the same strategy for increase their income. For example, like using online marketing, because the government was implementation the MCO, so they only have way to increase their income by doing online businesses like doing delivery to customer location, and then also using marketing in online for market their product, what business or what product they use, they sell during this pandemic, so the customer will know what are they selling during this pandemic, so that it can help increase their income for during this crisis pandemic.
But that's not the purpose of the research, is it? The purpose isn't just to increase business. The purpose is to find ways to help businesses that are suffering because of the COVID. You specifically in your title say during the COVID-19 pandemic. So I'm assuming this is problems which are caused by COVID-19. So if a business does not have problems related to COVID-19, then the data is flawed, is it?
Actually, it have impact because of the COVID-19, but my focus research is more to resilient and the improving the resilience through government assistance. But I'm not focused more to the impact that they have faces. It's just a general for this research.
Okay, let me ask you one more question. You said you had 476 respondents.
Yes.
So my question is to do with who that target audience was, because if you're looking for ways to improve the resilience of the business, my first thought was you would focus on the operators of the business. But with 476 respondents, I'm guessing that you didn't just go to business owners, but you went to the users of the business. Is that correct?
Okay, actually in Malaysia, the food enterprises, small enterprises, have more than 300. So I just calculate the sampling, and the sampling I needed only for 476 respondents to collect for this research.
But they were all business owners, were they?
Yes, only the entrepreneur in small scale food.
Okay, good. No, I'm surprised there was you managed to reach so many actual operators, which is good. Cool. Okay. Any other questions from the floor? Okay, let you go. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you, Dr. David.
And thank you to everybody this morning. And I'll hand it over to the next session. See you all next conference.
Okay, thank you.
You.